The knight asks Milady what is wrong. Then he explains that only those who have permission to do so can enter the demon lord's castle, and therefore asks the girl to go back. The main character replies that even though she doesn't have permission, she can provide them with a subpoena. The girl thought that during this time, she managed to write an erotic novel with the participation of the Lord of Demons in the leading male role, and she understands that now the real Lord of Demons has filed a lawsuit against her. In her past life, the main character only lived to be 19. In her first incarnation, she was an ordinary high school student named Irene Yu, who loved reading romance novels so much that she ended up memorizing them from A to Z. The young lady knew that what was even sadder than her early death was that she had attended an all-girls school and had never even held hands with a living partner. The girl reflected on the fact that her indignation was so strong that living her second life as an active spirit in the underworld, she told twisted stories to the Grim Reapers. The older man was surprised and told the young lady that she had an amazingly high level of energy and that this was the first time he had seen anything like this. The main character understood that one day the Lord of Spirits praised her and turned her into a succubus and granted her a home in this world. A succubus is a demon of lust and debauchery in medieval legends, visiting young men at night and causing them to have lustful dreams, a character in the lower mythology of the peoples of Europe. Thanks to this, the girl's soul did not disappear without a trace, and her eyes became bright purple, and her hair acquired a coral silver shade. And what's more, the novel she wrote as a virgin spirit became a bestseller in the demon world. And immediately after the publication, 5,500 Shadows of the Demon Lord came out in 2 volumes. However, there were those who could not read it due to the age restrictions of this world. The story is told in the first person of a girl living in a castle with a demon lord with whom she has an illicit affair. However, this very book was the reason that the main character was sued, and this is her third life. So she thinks that she should not lose her composure in such a situation because she has gotten out of worse troubles. The young lady believes that it doesn't matter what others say or think because she wants to live this life for herself and fulfill her most cherished desires. And when the guard read the sheet, he realized whose handwriting it was. And then screaming, he said to report to His Majesty that the author of that novel for perverts had arrived. Hearing this, the girl thought that she was ready to sink into the ground from embarrassment. When the main character entered inside, she was struck by the fact that everything was strikingly different from what she described in her article. She understood that the demon world seemed no different from the modern world of the 21st century, and this castle was more like a film set, and as if there were mixed periods of different eras. The main character remembered that she heard that the demon lord is quite an attractive man. And since he is a war hero, whose appearance 7 years ago, like a falling star, turned the tide of the war, and she thinks that he must have a beautiful body. The lady heard that they were greeting His Majesty Claude Stern. The man said that they had met again, but only this time under a pseudonym, and then he offered the girl to lift her head. The girl looked at this man, and she wondered if he was the Lord of Demons, and he asks what she called him then, and also asks if she remembers, and then offers to remind her. The guy claims she called him an unlucky bastard. Hearing this, the main character remembered that she did not know that the demon lord himself was in front of her then. A week earlier, the main character felt someone else's gaze on her, and she wondered why this man was staring at her. But she understood that if you look closely, he is quite handsome, and even his uniform drives her crazy. Serene knew that being an incredible beauty was very tiring, and then she asks if he fell in love with her. Hearing this, the guy thought what kind of nonsense this woman was talking, since something jelly-like was located right on the bench, and therefore he was wondering whether he should order this tourist to be removed to the appropriate place. The guy replies that he has no idea what she is talking about, and so suggests that she continue sleeping, but suddenly he notices a book and asks what it is. The lady replies that it is a novel, written in 2 volumes, and asks if he is interested. He asks if it describes stupid relationships. Hearing this, the main character asks what he said, screaming. He says that she is funny and wonders why she reacted like that. The lady asks again what he just said. Siren claims that it's a funny and stupid romantic story, and this was said by someone who probably has never even held a girl's hand in his life. She believes that he will slowly but surely change his mind if she tells him more. The guy asks why she doesn't do something else, since she found time to write such a boring novel, and also asks if she has anything to say in response. The guy says that if she has nothing to say, then he will go because he thinks that he can't waste time on such disputes. The main character smiles and asks what the hell is wrong with him, and then screams and claims that he is not a lucky bastard who irritates her. The man says that if she doesn't know who he is, then a wise ruler will tell her, and then says that he won't let her go unpunished. At this time, Siren realized what it meant to be in deep trouble. His Majesty says that it seems that in her previous life, she was a virgin spirit in the demon world. The guy says that it was presumptuous of her to make fun of him based on his past experience as a succubus. His Majesty says that he is thinking of banning all books that spread false information about him, and asks what the head of the royal library thinks about this. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, because she does not think that there is false information in her novel. The librarian says that the problem is that the events mentioned in the second half of the novel are very controversial, and then asks if the detailed description refers to the real demon lord, or if it is a secret. The girl says that the answer is that this novel is actually his autobiography, and she is the main character in it. The young lady thought that she had screwed up again, because this was enough to get her book banned, and then it would be the end for her too. After all, she expected that they would simply remove it from sale, and that they would take away all the profits received from sales. In fact, she would even be glad if everything ended there. But since the other side of the demon lord would only have to wait for the death sentence every now and then. Siren smiles and explains that it was just an innocent joke. However, the guy claims that he doesn't think so. The main character asks why he looks at her like that, and then he swears on his precious stone that there will be no trial. The guy claims that as long as her book contains false information, it will be banned. To swear on their stone, which is like the heart of all demons and is the source of all their powers, means that they are putting their lives on the line, and this oath cannot be broken. If someone fails to keep their promise, the oath will be broken. In other words, it will lead to the death of the owner. The girl turns to His Majesty and asks that if the book is banned, then it turns out that everyone who read it will also be punished. He asks if she thinks that there are only 2 copies of the book, and they have 1. The librarian says that they can't do anything about it, because this lady's book is a bestseller in the demon world, and that means that the book that His Majesty currently owns is not the only copy, and that more than half of the inhabitants of the demon world have it. His Majesty asks how to understand this. The girl thought about the fact that at the moment when this book is declared prohibited, half of all demons must also serve their punishment, and she believes that she will not be the only one who will get it. The librarian claims that since he has already sworn on his gem, half the population of the demon world will have to be punished. Then he says that fortunately, there is a way to avoid mass punishment. The man says that for this to happen, His Majesty must ensure that the contents of this book are reliable, since the decision will be made in a maximum of 444 days. The library says that according to the laws of the demon world, if more than half of a work is true, then it does not fall under the dissemination of false information. His Majesty asks if he is trying to say that the librarian explains that this is exactly how he will have to prove that at least half of what is written is true within the specified time. Heard this, the main character thought that she does not understand what is happening, but thinks that it looks like the demon lord dug his own grave, and I wonder what he is feeling now. The man with the mustache turns to the lady and says that this applies to her too, and explains that she too will have to prove that more than half of what is written is true, and then ask if she wants to say that the book is not narrated in the first person. Hearing this, the girl thought that her book was an erotic novel, and since the demon lord was the main character, she should play the role of the main character. The main character understands that since she was a virgin spirit, she never had experience in relationships, and she understands that while she was collecting data for the book, she thought that she would die, but now she must repeat the plot of the book in reality with the bastard who sued her. Cyrilla thinks that if the book is banned, her beloved readers will go to prison, and she understands that she cannot run away, saying that she will not do this. At this time, the guy thought that he did not understand why he did this, and thoughtlessly swore on the stone. His Majesty asks the man what would happen if he just killed her right now. The librarian replies that she owes him alive to delay the verdict. At this time, the girl thought that the citizens should know that the king is a real monster, and she believes that in any case, the trial will begin from the moment of her death, and before that, she has 444 days. His Majesty says that the book must first be returned to its place. Suddenly, Her Majesty Queen Wilyartia Itara enters the room. Seeing her, the main character thought that she was so elegant and divine from head to toe. The young gentleman asks what she is doing here. The lady replies that she is embarrassed. The king orders everyone except the royal librarian to leave, and then asks Her Majesty what has confused hers. The queen suggests trying to understand her, and then asks Claude if he wants to be a queen himself. At this time, the main character thought that they play a married couple only in public, and she thinks that she does not think that she is even more shocked than this news. The girl realizes that the image of a sensible and kind-hearted demon king who abolished slavery was only for the public, and even she did not expect the queen to be like that. Suddenly, the queen grabs the girl by the hands and says that she is her dear author and asks her to forgive her for being rude. At this time, the main character saw that the demon king just grinned, and she thinks that they look more like brother and sister. The princess asks Paul Segan to tell her what happened. He explained the situation to her. Her Majesty screams and asks Claude how he dares to disturb her favorite author, and also wondering if it is because she reads her books every day before going to bed. The princess says that she has made herself clear and believes that he needs to comply with her demands. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what is being discussed and what other demands are being made, and she wonders if she can even hear this conversation, because she understands that she heard their personal secret. The king and queen began to argue and sort out their relationship. However, Her Majesty claims that for her, the bedroom is the place where she reads books by an expensive author. The queen turns to the dear author and asks if everything is okay with her, because she blushed very much. Hearing this, the girl realized that this is not what she thinks and believes that it is impossible no matter how attached the demon world is. Willia then turns to Claude and asks what he is going to do. Then he states that if something happens to Miss and she doesn't finish the book, she will kill herself, and asks if he heard her. The princess tells the girl that she is not her fan who never thought that she would meet her in person. She touches her hand and says that now she understands what a golden hand the author who wrote this novel is. Villiaria asks when the hell he took her book and wonders if he went into her bedroom. Hearing this, the main character realized that this is a married couple who sleep in different rooms. At this time, Her Majesty thought that she could not believe that the girl Claude brought would turn out to be the author. The main character thought that maybe this is her only chance, and unlike Villiaria, other queens in her place would be afraid to lose the love of the king, but she is different from them, because even before the war, she was the Princess of Etera, the power of a noble family of the Empire of Light. The girl understands that, moreover, the queen is a fan of Siren's books, and even subscribed to the author of 5,500 Shadows of the Demon Lord on social networks. Villiaria thought that she literally felt sick every time from this guy whom she didn't even love, but was forced to live with as a married woman. And Claude, who had refused all the royal concubines offered, showed interest in a woman. The queen understands that if everything goes well between the author and Claude, then she will be overthrown, and she will be able to return home, and she will finally be released. And she also wondered if such a wonderful opportunity would ever appear again. Her Majesty asks the girl if, since she is already here, she could give her her autograph. Claude says that he does not understand why she bought so many copies of the same book. Hearing this, the main character thought that all these books in the box were hers. The queen explains that this book is from her new collection, and the other is from a limited edition, and then she chose the book where the first autograph should be. After all, she believes that this book is from a limited edition for the most devoted readers. The princess explains that the author himself has one copy, and she has the other, and she believes that there are only two of them. Hearing this, the girl realized that one book belonged to the queen, and she was also surprised why the book was from a limited edition for devoted fans of the Demon King. Claude tells his wife that in any case, she said there were only two copies. She explains that she was talking about a limited edition for dedicated readers. The main character understands that the reason he filed the lawsuit is because he wanted to punish her for not doing something during the work. And she believes that she is an unfortunate victim of a quarrel between spouses and like a shrimp in a fight between whales. The girl does not understand who will compensate for the damage that she will ultimately have to go through. The queen turns to the author and says that if she doesn't mind, she would like to pack up the table and chair she just used and take them back to the Atra to make them a family heirloom. Villiaria turns to the maids and tells them not to forget to wrap them with ribbon. At this time, Claude does not understand what this scene means, and then remembers that in her novel, he read a chapter in which the main character tied the wrist of the demon lord, and he does not understand why she would do something like that. Having heard this, the girl does not understand why out of all the scenes in the book, he asks her about this when he himself should know better than her. The queen turns to the author and tells her to forgive him, because Claude does not understand such things at all, and believes that he is sincere and curious, which is why he asks. She says that Claude has been in this world for 7 years, and the author for only a year. In the demonic world, there are 2 ways for demons to appear: naturally and through incarnation. And the main character belongs to the latter category because she came here from the underworld. In a demonic world where there is no strict hierarchy, demons do not age every year as time passes. They can also randomly appear out of thin air, because there is no concept of age, and shielded demons are already born as adults. The main character thought that she found it hard to believe that the demon who appeared in this world 7 years ago would understand so little about love. 7 years ago, Claude suddenly appeared in the southern region of the Empire of Night at the age of 25. He knows nothing about love and relationships because after the incarnations and the end of the war, he immediately plunged headlong into work. The girl thought that he was more interested in becoming the supreme emperor than in a love relationship. Claude is an incorrigible workaholic who is not interested in social events, but has all the knowledge necessary to govern the country, which he will learn from the chief librarian. The queen thought about how there had never been a spark between them, and she had given up trying to get him because her first love had not worked out, and Paul Segan had not found her efforts necessary either. Willia believes that her dear author must turn half of the novel into reality in order to create harmony in the demonic world. The queen tells the girl that she will soon get used to this excellent feature of his as soon as she looks at this charming face. The young lady thought that he was indeed handsome, and his captivating facial features were both seductive and graceful, and his slightly frowning gaze gave him a rough but at the same time sensual look. However, the girl does not know if there is a god in the demon world, but if there is, he will do a really good job of hiding all the flaws on his face. She wondered why the queen was telling her all this. Willia claims that she is Miss Author, the ideal teacher, who could teach their king, who knows nothing about love affairs. Siren realized that she wanted her, who also had no experience in relationships, to teach someone about romance. The queen suggests not to worry, as Claude is a fast learner. Hearing this, he points his finger at the girl and says that he hasn't been able to concentrate on his work for a whole week because of her, and he would prefer not to see her face again. The main character says that the oath on the gemstone cannot be broken, and asks if this is true, and then claims that if His Majesty does not plan to make most of his subjects criminals, then, in such situations, it is always better to solve difficult issues step by step. After all, a novel based on passionate desires to force someone who knows nothing about lust is equivalent to bringing him to tears. And at that time, the girl thought that even in tears, he would look quite seductive, and therefore, she believes that she needs to calm down and find a solution. The queen asks the librarian if the decision will be based on the truthfulness of the entire book. He replies that it is. Cyrilla claims that in that case, she should make changes to the epilogue script, and then says that so far, only her editor has seen it. The queen screams and says that she cannot allow this to happen because she believes that it will disrupt the flow of readers, and the age rating is very important for the book. The girl explains that the age rating is not what Her Highness should worry about most right now. However, the main character reflects that Her Highness is right, and she cannot just take and remake the epilogue for a different rating, since this could also lead to a change in the mood of the readers. But she understands that this does not mean that she will be able to repeat all those scenes from the book in reality. The main character says that in this case she has no other choice except to write a few more volumes, because then from these volumes of the novel, it will be possible to choose more suitable scenes for embodiment, and she thinks that this will be the best solution. Hearing this, the queen asks if everything will be okay with them. At this time, the girl thought that her expression looked too happy, considering that she was asking her if everything would be okay. Cirilla says she has no choice, and she thinks her editor will understand. The king asks who Simeon is. She replies that he is the main male character, and Irene was her name in the human world. The queen asks if she specifically indicated a human name, thinking that she would turn away, saying that this is not her work. The girl tells Her Majesty that in the book, the main character treats the main character informally. Willia suggests taking it easy on the author, because she thinks the demon lord will be merciful enough to forgive this rudeness. At this time, the girl thought that this gracious king of hers was drilling his deadly gaze at her, and then she asked if she was being appointed as the royal author. The queen gives the girl a contract and says that it is difficult to find someone more suitable for the position of royal author than her. And at that time, she thought that if she were appointed as royal author, she would become a member of the demon lord's castle, and the danger of rumors spreading about what was happening would disappear. And in addition, she would also undertake to write for the rest of her life. Willia reflects that in this case, she will no longer have to wonder whether her favorite author will ever publish another work. Claude says that he swears on his stone that he will try his best to fulfill the terms of this contract. At this time, the main character thought that she does not understand why he extends his hand to her and thinks that he wants to shake it. She says that she can't wait to work hard together during her stay here. The king thought that every time she smiled, something inside him seemed to tremble, and then he said that he would find her a room in which she could settle. Sitting in his office, Claude opened the book and wondered what had caught Willia's attention in this novel. He looked at the papers and realized that the daily schedule of lines was ready, and he thought that they would fit into 1 month. The young gentleman thinks that it is quite possible to manage in a month if he does 1 line a day, but he understands that he is certainly not delighted with kisses, hugs, and all that, as well as with the fact that he will have to adjust to the Book of Sirens. The king reflects on the fact that this is all for the good of the demon world, and he has managed his entire life quite successfully, and he has also successfully demonstrated his family life for 7 years. And then he tells the servant to take this to the royal author's mansion. The young gentleman thought that it was intriguing and quite an entertaining read, and the emotional component was also well described. He found it hard to believe that this novel was written by a virgin spirit. At the same time in the mansion, the main character is lying on the bed screaming and saying that the damn demon lord, because she thinks that this is a very wonderful mansion. Since there is dust and cobwebs everywhere, and no one has cleaned this place for centuries. The girls became interested in how long it would take to clean up. Suddenly, she saw that someone had slipped a letter under her door, and she wondered what was written there. She saw that it was a schedule for a month, the embodiment of the contents of the book into reality and starting from today. The author thinks that he wants to finish the contract in a month without even waiting for her offer, and he even chose the scenes for today, and she thinks that he is crazy. The main character thought that if everything continues like this, she will have to spend this night with the demon lord. And this thought alone drives her crazy, because she does not understand why he chose these scenes out of all the others. And then the girl goes out into the corridor, because she became interested in where this demon lord is. She thinks that she needs to urgently find him and cancel this 30-day schedule. The author understands that all this is her fault, because it was she who wrote these explicit bed scenes. And just to describe the position of the hands, she spent 2 or 3 lines, and she deliberately made the non-explicit scenes short. Cirilla doesn't understand why he, who, by the way, knows nothing about tactile contact, chose such explicit scenes, and that's why she thinks she should be calm and immediately find him and fix the situation. When the girl opened the door, she saw the king who came out of the shower and was drying his half-naked body. At this time, the main character remembered the queen's words about how she told her to take a closer look at his charming face, and she does not understand how it was possible to remain silent about this beautiful body. Claude asks if in such cases, one doesn't try to close one's eyes quickly. The young lady apologizes, and he says that it seems that she has already managed to see a lot since she apologizes. At this time, the main character thought that usually servants stay next to the king during his bathing in order to meet him and help him get dressed, and she wondered why he does everything himself. The king says that it seems she can't wait for the night. Hearing this, the girl doesn't understand what she's talking about. The young gentleman says that he did not know that she would decide to come to him first, and he thinks that it must have been unbearable. The author, screaming, explains that this is not why she came here. He says that in this case, this situation needs to be resolved as soon as possible. Suddenly, the girl falls, and the guy says that it is not such a big problem, and then suggests to close her eyes, and he will do everything quickly. Cyrilla asks if she has a choice, and the king, surprised, asks what choice she is talking about, and then claims that they have both already agreed to finish this as soon as possible, and then asks whether he should turn off the light or not. The lady explains that this is not what she meant by choice. He says that there must be a reason why she decided to come to him so late. The main character explains that he has misunderstood everything. The young gentleman claims that he thinks he knows why she came, and then says that he has already studied her book. At this time, the girl thought that she needed to stop staring at his naked body because she could not think normally. The young gentleman snaps his fingers and says that he will turn off the light first because he thinks that she has become too sentimental. The king grabs the girl by the ear, and at that moment, she remembered the words of Her Majesty that he does not understand such things, and she thinks that maybe it is all because she has been a virgin spirit for too long, and therefore now cannot resist the male energy of Yang. The main character suggests waiting a minute, and then asks if he really learned everything that was in the book. The young gentleman replies that he has studied them all. Hearing this, she thought that this is even greater progress than simple reading, and she does not understand when he managed to do it. The girl doesn't understand what to do now, and thinks that she needs to say something, and then asks if he ate anything today. The young lady asks, "How about something sweet?" since she heard that it is important for demons to eat something sweet before going to bed. The young gentleman called the girl Irene, and she realized that he had just called her Irene, as in the novel he was not Serene. And at that moment, she thought that her heart would immediately jump out of her chest. The king asks the lady if she is afraid of him, and then hugs her. He says that he could eat her up like candy, and that's why he wants to hug her right now. The girl explains to His Majesty that she is not ready yet, because this is the demon world, and she would not do this with someone who does not even have a place in her heart. Claude asks if there is a place for him in her heart. She says that there is not yet, but his face, voice, and stunning body tell her so. The young gentleman pushes the girl away, asking if she has finished her rant. She says yes, and he states that it means one thing has already been done. His Majesty takes the stone and says that it is about the lines from Syrine's dialogue, and then asks if she has forgotten what she wrote herself. Claude explains that he himself enchanted the moonlight crystal, and it will glow when the scene from the book becomes reality. The young gentleman reports that he is now glowing, which means that they have succeeded in this. At this time, the girl remembered that she herself wrote these words, and these are lines from her own novel. And she wondered why she answered his questions. So Claude asks if she thought he would actually hug her. The girl asks why there was such a rush, and then explains that she was not ready for it. His Majesty says that he did not think that he would say such a thing, who throughout all this time did not take her eyes off his body. She asks if he can get dressed already. The young gentleman smiled, and then asked who would say such a thing, and claimed that making love is the best cure for depression. Hearing this, the author remembered that she wrote these words in her novel. And then she smiled and asked who said that his body was seductive. She asked him to please get dressed faster, before someone sees and misunderstands. Claude asks if she is talking about actions that could be misunderstood, while she herself understands what is required of them. The king asks what her plan is then, and then says that she doesn't want to do anything at all with someone she doesn't have feelings for. The lady claims because she didn't say that she doesn't want anything at all, but explains that she just doesn't have the desire. And at that moment, I thought about how she doesn't have the desire to sleep with that damn demon lord. However, the main character understands that he really deserves to be the king of all demons, because he already pisses her off so much. The young gentleman claims that he does not want to make criminals out of his subjects, and the girl says that even if it is so, and then points her finger and asks what it is then. Siren states that since it's only the first day, she can say that today was just a warm-up compared to the days to come. The young lady says that towards the end, especially in the last 10 days, there will be very hot scenes from which her face begins to turn red, even from simply reading the lines. Claude claims that his schedule is impeccable and asks what she doesn't like. She asks how that's possible, and then tells him that he learned about romance from reading just one book. The young gentleman says that he thinks she's in no position to tell him that. The main character shows the sheet in front of her and asks if he really thinks they can stick to this schedule, given that she doesn't even have feelings for him. The guy replies that someone's feelings are not so important now, because he thinks that only time is of primary importance, and he thinks that they should spend nights together. And the girl asks if he means that they will spend every night for a whole month. Claude asks if she doesn't like the fact that it will take the whole night, or that she will have to spend it with him. Anna replies that both, but the latter more. The king says that he has given her the title of royal author, and therefore suggests that she should not think that she has the right to ask for anything else. The main character turns to His Majesty and says that she will work very hard to finish the spin-off, and then asks him to have mercy and adjust her daily routine. Claude claims she has 3 months to finish the spin-off, and not a day more, then says he'll send her a revised schedule later. The next day, the main character reflects that she spent the whole day cleaning and sleeping. When the girl was collecting water, she became interested in how long she had to stay in this palace. After all, because of the oath on this precious stone, she had to bring half of her own story to life. Siren realizes that the inexperienced Demon King has learned everything he needs from her book and wants to finish everything in 30 days. She wonders if he even knows how to calculate his own strength. However, the main character thinks that she needs to think about something else, because even if she brings half of the plot to life, the queen will not let her leave so easily. The girl understands that the queen was not satisfied with the Demon King, and she believes that if her true intentions are to return to Ytra, then the colors become even more complicated. Siren knows that the queen wanted her to teach the Demon King everything, knowing full well that he is inexperienced. However, no matter how much the main character pressed, there was still no water, and she thought that she could not be stuck here forever as a royal author. The girl thinks that maybe she will be able to get a recommendation to the Royal Academy. The Royal Academy is the only convenient institution in the demon world, located between the counties of Light and Night. It is said that, in order to enter, one must pass the entrance exam with very high scores, and she did not even try. The main character understood that it would be a completely different matter if a letter of recommendation was written, especially for her. After all, she knows very well that this is one of the most reliable methods of admission. The girl wants to survive to find out what it's like to live in a dorm. Suddenly, a knight appeared before the lady and said that he apologizes for introducing himself so late. He says that his name is Corin, and he is the Shadow Commander. The main character looked at him in surprise. He suggests that the lady address him informally. At this time, the girl thought that this man, and she, even through the armor, feels that he is smiling. The knight touched the handle, and water flowed out. And then he says that His Majesty ordered him to give this box to Miss Ur. When the lady opened the box, she saw that there was a schedule for today. She read that today was a secret meeting between the main character and the main character after the royal banquet. The main character thinks that it is relatively doable, since the Demon King must have considered her request. However, she understands something as she wrote this. This request is still too hot. Siren saw the dress and thought that it was identical to the dress from the novel, and thought that he definitely had problems with the presentation, but she had to admit that the king was attentive to details. The girl thought that if it weren't for his terrible character, she would have already attacked him. Suddenly, Claude opens the door to the room and asks Siren if she knows what time it is, and wonders why she is not ready yet. The surprised girl says that he came in without knocking. He claims that he did knock, and suggests that she hurry up. The young lady says that she is not ready yet. However, the guy snapped his fingers, and in a second, the dress that was lying there was already on her. He says that this is exactly what it is necessary to study magic for. The girl thought that now she would definitely receive a letter for admission. And then she noticed his gaze and asked what His Majesty was looking at. Claude suggests that the girl just hurry up because he thinks they might be late. Siren, sitting on the bed, says that as far as she remembers in this scene, he should say that he loves her while she drinks white wine, and later he should rip her dress, and that's where they'll end. Claude says he has a meeting with the Shadow Commander at 5, and so he suggests that they get this over with. The girl takes the book and tells him to let her think about it, and then tells him to unbutton his tie and shirt. She explains that this is just to make it clear to His Majesty that this is not what she wants, since it is only part of the scene. The young gentleman asks in surprise if she wants him to take off his clothes, and then does what she tells him. At this time, the main character covered her eyes with her palm. The king asks, what is the point of hiding her face if she still looks through her fingers? Hearing this, Siren screams and says that she wasn't looking at him. At this time, the girl thought that after being reborn and becoming a demon, his body became simply incredible, and she did not understand why the hell he was so hot. The main character thought that the old her would have taken all his clothes off herself. She wondered why she wrote that he should be wearing a shirt, because she thought that she couldn't see his hand. The young gentleman lying on the bed tells the girl to do it. She agrees with him, and at this time, she does not understand why she cannot look him in the eyes. Claude reports that, as he said earlier, time is of the essence. Miss suggests that he let her get in the mood, at least because she needs to relax a little. The young gentleman asks the girl why she needs to relax. And at that moment, she thought that she couldn't just say that. The main character addresses the guy calling him Semyon and says that she loves him. Hearing this, he replies that he does not love her. Hearing this, the young lady was surprised and smiled, and then asks if he still has time to joke, and then reminds him that he himself said that he values time, and she wonders why he can't just play his part. Claude explains that she was so serious that he thought to lighten the mood. However, the girl claims that she was not serious, and at that time, she thought that she should just look at his face and just look at him. The young lady again claims that she loves him. The guy smiled and said that he did not feel sincerity in her words. The girl angrily asks if he could just follow the script. The young gentleman says that someone said for a few seconds that he wasn't serious. The main character asks him if he is having fun. He replies that perhaps a little. Siren says again that she loves him. He wonders how strong her love is. She turns to His Majesty and asks him to stop. Claude says that he agrees with her, and then says that they laughed and that's enough, and invites her to continue. The girl says again that she loves him. The king, with the help of magic, quickly found 2 glasses and poured white wine into them. Siren drank a little and thought that she was already drunk from 1 glass. The guy tears her dress, and at that time, she thought that she was starting to get drunk. The young gentleman says that they are done with this part, and he doesn't think that this scene was written in the book. The main character asks what scene he's talking about. The guy explains that the price of how she crawls on him. The girl wonders if they have to follow what is written in the book. And at that moment, she thought about what she had just said. Claude asks in surprise if she could have gotten drunk from 1 glass of wine, and wonders if she has accidentally gone crazy. The young lady wonders why His Majesty thinks so, and then asks if he too has gone mad. The girl thought that she couldn't get drunk from 1 glass, and thinks that maybe it's some kind of curse. She thinks that it doesn't matter now. The guy asks what she is getting now. She says that she wanted to ask him herself why he is doing this to her. And then she says that if he doesn't like her, and asks why, then it was necessary to give a useless oath on her stone. Suddenly, the young gentleman pulled the girl towards himself, and she asked him why he did it. He said that if she was not irritated or angry, then he did not understand why she was doing this. The girl says that he still shouldn't know everything in the world, since he's only 7 years old in this world. Claude tells the girl that she has such enticing lips that he just wants to bite into them. Miss tells His Majesty that his hands are so cold, however he seems not to hear her, and then kisses her on the lips. Surprised, Siren asks why he kissed her. He asks why her hand is on his back. The lady replies that it is because she likes it that way. Hearing this, he is surprised. The main character says that he has a great back, and his face and voice are simply magnificent. The deck tells the girl that she'd better not say anything and go to bed, because otherwise she might regret it the next morning. However, she insists that he's a charmer. At this time, the young master thought that he could not cope with her, and called the shadow commander, who stood in front of him in a second, and said that he was ready for his service. The king asks if he can pretend he didn't see anything and bring someone who could help him with it. Claude turns to the girl and calls her a virgin spirit and suggests that she pull herself together. He understands that it seems she is getting sleepy. The young lady asks if they can sleep together. He is surprised to hear this, and she asks if he wants to take a good nap together. At this time, the main character thought that his hands were so soft and thought that it was all thanks to her writing, and she thinks that he learned everything that was in her book and knows what he is doing, and thinks that it is all thanks to her. The girl likes the way he strokes her hair and his gentle kiss as if he is eating cotton candy. Siren became, I wonder what she will get at the end of today's schedule. The guy asks if she has something in mind. The main character says that she wants a letter of recommendation to the Royal Academy. Hearing this, the young gentleman was surprised, and then said that one should not make such hasty decisions. Siren asks who swore on his stone and started all this mess. The young gentleman wonders if all that is required of him is just his signature, and then asks what he will receive in return. The girl claims that he already has everything and asks what else he wants, and also asks if he wants her to kiss him every day. Claude says he thinks they're both nuts, and then asks where he should sign. He grabs the girl by the waist, and then says he thinks it'll work on her back. The knight tells His Majesty that he has brought a friend of Milady Dylan, says that he is ready for his service. Dylan Aldebaran, CEO and editor-in-chief of Demon Publishing, which published the novel 5,000 Shadows of the Demon Lord. Seeing him, the king thought about how he was told that he was Siren's only friend in the demon world. He then asks Aldebaran if he knows what to do about it. The editor replies that she is like that every time she gets drunk, and he thinks that there is a dark story behind it. And at that moment, he thought that he was not entirely sure, although he told her not to get carried away with drinking, and thought that when she wakes up, then the girl will get it from him. The king explains that it is not just intoxication from wine, and thinks that it must be a curse or something worse. At this time, the main character felt as if she was in a fog. Aldebaran says she won't remember anything when she sobers up. Then he asks if he can ask his master to cast a sleep spell on her so she can fall asleep faster. Claude claims that this time she will remember everything. The next morning, the main character thought that she had managed to sleep well. Suddenly, the girl saw Dylan near the bed. She asks, screaming, what happened to him and who hurt him. The guy says his headache is killing him and he's holding his head. He tells the girl to sit down and then asks if he told her not to drink anymore. The young lady says he told her this. The editor asks how many times, and then reminds her that it must be the 20th time, and every time she drinks, she can't remember anything. Dylan reports that yesterday a shadow commander rushed to him, and when he came here, the girl was unconscious, and the demon lord was also extremely surprised. Siren wonders why he brought it up, and she thinks that nothing good will come out of this conversation. The editor reports that the bishop's shirt was unbuttoned, and she was lying on him like a little kitten. The girl was surprised to hear this. Then she says that he simply made it up, so that she wouldn't drink anymore, and asks if she is telling the truth. Dylan says that he would like it to be a joke, and tells her that as soon as they escorted her to the mansion, Sir Corin told him the whole story, starting with the accusations of translation and ending with the daily schedule. Siren asks Dylan if she can just go out the window. He tells her that she kissed, and that's all he knows, and asks if something more could have happened. He says that he came with the commander later and thinks that who knows what happened. The girl says that she really is going to jump, and then asks what she should do, because she thinks the demon lord will put her in jail for it. The editor says that this is unlikely, because he saw the king looking at her with tenderness, and he would probably send for a maid to help her recover. Hearing this, Siren asks what he means by the way he looked at her. He replies that it looked like they just came from Chef Gonzalez's restaurant. The lady asks what he means by that. Dylan suggests that the girl first drink a drink that helps get rid of a hangover and restore lost memories after heavy drinking. Siren drank quickly, and after a few minutes, realized that the memories were starting to return. The editor asks Siren what she remembered. At this time, the girl heard a knock on the door and offered to come in. As it turned out, a gentleman came to her, and he asked Milady how she felt. Abel Celia, former baron and current commander of the Water faction. He was one of the barons that the Overlord spared during the war. The main character says that she is glad to meet the Sr. Abel, who is the blue commander of the night, and then says that she is Sirene, the court writer. The girl says that His Majesty warned her that he might do something extreme. Abel turns to Milady and asks her not to do anything extreme, and then reports that he heard that she received a recommendation to enter the Royal Academy. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, and then remembered how it was, and she became interested in what she was thinking about. However, she does not understand why he put his signature on the back. Siren says that she must have lost the note with the signature, and then says that she will make sure to find it and arrive at the campus on time. and at that time, she thought that she can't show such a revealing part of her body to the commander of the night. Abel says he understands what a pity milady thanks Sir for understanding. The main character turns to Dylan and says that if there is no news from her by tomorrow, he can take her things the house, and she also bequeaths it to him. Hearing this, the editor tells her not to dramatize like that. When the girl came to the Lord, she asked for forgiveness. He asked in surprise if something had happened yesterday that required an apology. The king says there is no need to apologize. Hearing this, my lady thought that he was fine. The young gentleman says that he will repay her in kind. Hearing this, the girl thought about the cancellation because she thinks that everything is bad. Claude asks if she was able to enroll in the Royal Academy. Siren explains that it's because he signed her back. Then he asks if he could sign it again. The young gentleman asks where he can sign. The girl says that a piece of paper would be best, and then asks why he signed on her back. The king says that it is quite burdensome and let him choose between top or bottom. She replies that it is bottom. Claude picks up the girl. She asks her master how to use magic to register. He replies that using the power of a demon, he places his hand over the signature and lets go. And then she goes straight to the academies. At this time, the main character understood what the bottom meant, and then turns to the ruler and tells him to sign on top. Siren says that if she knew what he meant by bottom, she wouldn't have said that. He claims that it's quite burdensome. The young gentleman turns to the girl and calls her a virgin spirit and says that he does not understand her goals and intentions, but still believes that this will not happen to her anyway. The main character asks him in surprise what he means. He replies that something like this, and then removes the strap from her shoulders. The girl says that since he signed on the back, he just needs to unbutton the dress and asks why he is pulling down the strap. Claude asks if she thinks he's looked at the dress up close and thinks he knows how to take it off. The main character asks the gentleman to hurry up. He holds her in his arms and then unbuttons the back of her dress. At this time, Siren blushed, and he asks if she wants to go down. The girl thought that she didn't want to show him her face because she thought that she looked exactly like a red tomato. Claude touches the girl's back and asks where it is. She replies that it is a little lower, and the young gentleman asks if it hurts her. She says a little, but bearable. Claude says that then he can let her go, and then he lets her go, and she falls to the floor. The girl thought that she looked like luggage and was being treated like a thing. At this time, the queen was watching them. Seeing her, the young gentleman asks how long she has been standing here. Willia apologizes and then explains that she didn't know he had someone. Claude says that he thinks she just misunderstood. Hearing this, the queen smiled. At this time, the main character puts on a dress and screams that she will leave right now. Her Majesty turns to the author and says that she does not need to be so embarrassed, and then turns to her husband and asks if he can open a teleportation portal to send the author to her palace. The young gentleman opened a portal and the girl moved. The queen turns to her husband and explains that she has come because of this report. Claude asks why she is smirking. She asks if he doesn't like Miss Author and suggests not to try to change the subject. Willia claims that this is no longer a game and asks if he is in love with hers. The young gentleman claims that he is not interested in such things as love. She says that he knew that when a demon falls in love, the object of affection is said to smell like fresh fruit. Hearing this, the king remembered the fruity aroma and thought that he seemed to smell something sweet, similar to the succubus's peaches. The queen says that even she felt a pleasant aroma emanating from the author. Claude says that he thinks she wants to return to Etera, but seems to have completely forgotten the oath she made on her stone. Then he says that she cannot return until she finishes reforming the basic education system. Hearing this, Vilya remembered her promise that she would do anything just to make him keep this child. Then Claude said that he only wants one thing, and that is to become the only emperor of the demon world. Willia swore on her gem that she would do everything she could to help him become the first emperor of the demon world. At this time, the queen does not understand why she did this then. 7 years ago, Claude Stern destroyed all the tyrant lords who were forcing the demon people to die of starvation. Queen Bizzlebob's younger brother, Etera, was supposed to be another victim of Claude because he was the Lord of Etara and was sucking the life out of the demon on the continent of light. However, thanks to Willen's oath, her younger brother was not killed but sealed away. She realized that because of her unwanted promise to help him, she was trapped in a constant state of exhaustion. The king says that if she returns to Itara now, he will become the sole ruler. She says that this is why she wants to return. Claude reports that all that remains in Itar is the castle, which becomes more and more deserted every year. Villa claims that there are other people here, and in any case, she will pray before going to bed so that the future emperor can work hard even at night. The queen says people will worry if the monarch does not have a wife or heirs. The maid informs Her Majesty that the bath is ready, and the queen tells Rosalia to also prepare a waterproof version of the 5,000 Shadows of the Demon Lord. The queen sitting in the bathtub reads a book and says that Miss Author hasn't updated her page lately. She says that maybe she doesn't like the castle and doesn't understand what they'll do if she runs away, and also wonders what if the next work doesn't come out because of the love trauma she received. Villia tells the maid that she will have to help her, and then says that she must go to serve in the palace where the author now lives because she can cut off her head for refusing. But if she agrees, she will take her with her to Atara and asks what she will choose then. Rosalia responds by screaming that she is happy to fulfill her order, and then says that if Her Majesty takes her with her to Atara, she will do anything. The queen tells her to do everything possible to serve her well, and also to make sure that the author will not feel discomfort and will easily fall in love. At this time in the mansion, the guy tells the girl to come down quickly. He says that the condition of the outbuilding is better than what Dylan described, and says that he always takes care of her shorty. Ray Field is Dylan Aldebaran's best friend and drinking buddy. He is known to be the master of the earth element on the continent of Night and the captain of the Golden Knights. The main character saw the girl, and she became curious about who she was. Ray apologizes for the late introduction and informs that the lady's name is Rosalia, and that she is a maid that the queen has kindly sent to serve her. The guy says that Rosalia will serve the girl from today. The maid suggests not to be shy and call her at any time of the day. Siren is surprised and says that being a maid is too much for her. Rosalia says that Her Majesty personally entrusted her to serve the mistress, and therefore asks that she please take care of her. The main character turns to the maid and asks if she could show her the surroundings of the Demon Lord's palace tomorrow. Ray turns to the lady and asks if she knows what day tomorrow is. Then he tells her that tomorrow is the entrance ceremony to the academy, but he thinks that first she will have to pass the entrance exams, and he asks if she is already registered. The young lady screamed to explain that they were rejecting half the applications based on their exam results. The silver-haired boy tells the lady that she has nothing to worry about, since demons who receive a letter of recommendation will not be rejected no matter how low their scores are. Ray claims that he said everything correctly, and then turns to the girl and says that her recommendation is none other than the head of the academy himself. Hearing this, Siren is surprised and asks if the Demon Lord is the head of the academy. Initially, the academy was in a deplorable state, but thanks to the hard work of His Majesty, it became so grand, and when Ray studied there, the academy had only one building. The main character asks Sir Ray if he graduated from this academy too. He replies that she is right, and together with the commander of the Blue Knights. Ray says that in any case, if she is late as a professor, he will be forced to give her a failing grade, and therefore he advises her to come on time tomorrow. Siren looked at the guys in surprise and asked if they were also professors. Ray reports that His Majesty has purged all the nobles that he believes could use even a little magic, and that is why they are short of people, and the least they could do was help with training. At this time, the girl thought that such a seemingly most enviable job as a knight commander also includes additional work. She thinks that it is normal that the demon world functions in such an unprincipled way. The maid tells the lady that she has brought the books needed to pass the exams. Seeing this, the main character thought that there are so many of them, and in addition to the language of mathematics and science, she should also study demonology, the theory of magic and alchemies. The young lady realizes that there is nothing she can do about it, and thinks that it would be better for her to show them the cramming skills of Korean high school girls. The next day, the exhausted girl thought that she had put all her energy into her studies. Suddenly, a guy comes up to her and asks if she's okay. The girl replies that she thinks the exams are over anyway. The guy says that she tried well. Hearing this, the young lady thought that, as expected from the commander of the Blue Knights, such a good-natured Sirin apologizes for taking up his time and says that he must be busy. The silver-haired guy explains that he actually has some free time and says that if she wants, he can show her around the campus. The gentleman explains that this building will mainly host lectures on the basics of magic and will also host fitness classes. Crone explains that the intermediate territory is not because the academy is a twilight zone between the empires of day and night. After all, the landscape there is completely different when compared to the Empire of Night. The main character saw that countless demons came to enroll in the academy from these two empires. And the reason why so many first-year students decided to enroll in such a secluded academy is simple. The young lady understands that this is all because Demon Lord Claude personally selects talented people who will work with him after graduating from the academy. Siren knows that he's not exactly a problematic jerk. However, all the other first years are already there, and she wonders if no one told him that the congratulatory speech was about to begin. The commander greeted His Majesty Claude asks in surprise why he is here. He says that he came to the opening ceremony to give a congratulatory address, and that he really needs to tell Siren something. The main character suggests that he wait a second. The commander says that perhaps he will go and suggests that they enjoy the conversation. His Majesty asks why she suddenly has such a sour expression, and then wonders if she ate something wrong and what she tried to eat today. The young lady replies that she ate the sandwich Sir Abel gave her. He asks how she is feeling. The girl replies that in addition to feeling beautiful and refreshed today, she thinks she is doing well. Siren asks why he's asking. He replies that he doesn't want her to pass out while they're recreating part of the book. Hearing this, the main character says that today she is just so tired. He asks what she is getting at. The lady replies that she hoped that this would convince him, and then says that if Dylan were in his place, he would let her rest. The young gentleman says he doesn't understand her. The girl asks if he can tell she's so cute. Claude turns around and says they'll see each other later, and then leaves. Sitting in the main hall, the young lady thought that it really looked like an entrance ceremony was about to begin, and she should take her seats. All the students started shouting, "Long live His Majesty Claude and His Majesty Villeria." Seeing the king, the young lady thought that she would never have even imagined that he could smile so sweetly. Claude says that the academy is an institution that trains excellent demons who possess precious stones to become stronger. And it can also be said that the purpose of training is to protect those who do not possess precious stones. At this time, the main character noticed that someone was looking at her. And when she looked back, she saw a guy whom she considered quite handsome. A stranger asks a girl if she is new. The lady replies that she is new and asks who he is. The guy says that he is also new and asks how she wrote the exams, and then says that for him, it was a piece of cake, since you can write them, even with your eyes closed. The young gentleman says that his name is Kermit Galacia. Then he says that they are both new and suggests that they communicate informally. The young lady agrees with him and says that her name is Siren. He says that he already knows this. Kermit explains that he knows her because she became the Demon Lord's lover. The main character heard this and was surprised and wondered where he heard such a groundless rumor from, and then asked about it. She wondered how he even knew what she looked like. The guy explains that he just knew she was the girl from the rumors because he had noticed her walking with Abel earlier. He says that he never ignores rumors because he has a great interest in investment technologies. Siren asks him if he personally knows the captain of the Blue Knights. He says that he just called him by name. The guy replies that he called him by name because he is not here. The girls became curious about who he was, because she understood that usually only those who come from noble or influential families enter the academy. But judging by his appearance, he looks like an anthropomorphic demon. The young lady asks what he does. Kermit asks if she's talking about work, and then tells her to tell him about herself first. Siren says he's a freelancer, and then asks who he is. At this time, the main character thought that she could not say that she was the author of the most popular novel in the demon world. Kermit says he is into stocks and investment technology. Hearing this, the main character thought about what kind of guy she better not get involved with. And then she says that he was not worried because she will not impose anything on him. The guy says that people usually don't push anything on you at the first meeting. And then he tells the girl to communicate with him informally. She says that she needs time to get used to it. The young lady asks the boy why he was looking at her like that. Then he says that his heart started beating wildly. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and she became curious whether couples on campus are created with words like these. Kermit says he bought a lot of stock on the back of the concubine craze, and then suddenly she showed up, and he thought it was a sign the stock would go up, but he thinks it probably isn't. The girl asks why he doesn't sell them. Then he replies that stocks don't work that way, and explains that, after buying, you have to wait for the time it takes for them to grow. The young gentleman saw Willia Itara and called her by name. Hearing this, the young lady asks if he always calls people by name, and as if he knows them. The guy replies that, of course he knows Willia Itara, because she is the most beautiful woman in Itara, a place famous for its beauty. And then he says that she is the one who was going to become the first female lord in the Demon Kingdom. Kermit says that she was also one of the few members of the Aetera royal family to receive the support of the people. And what's more, she inherited one of the 8 rare gems of the demon realm. The guy asks if she sees the lily ornaments in her hair. Then he says that it is a wind elemental gem passed down through the generations of the Aetera royal family. And he thinks that since the public support was so strong, she must have thought that the throne would go to her. The young gentleman reports that after the birth of her younger brother, Bilsbart Itera, the royal princess was deprived of her position as heir, and the main character thought that it turns out that her younger brother took the throne from her. She asks the guy if he is really close to Her Majesty. Information about wars and the royal family is well hidden, so it is difficult for an ordinary person to know much about them, and the girl does not understand how he has such information. Kermit says that if she wants to know more about the world, she should look at stock market information and say, for example, gossip articles. At this time, the main character thought that no matter how long she thought about it, she still thinks that it is better not to appear with him in public places. Rosalia turns to Milady and says that it is time for her to wake up. Then she says that His Majesty has ordered them to remain in the palace until a decision is made on the definition of the elements. Siren thought that just because she was accepted into the academy didn't mean she had to give up her daily scene replay schedule. The main character turns to His Majesty and asks if something is wrong. He replies that everything is fine. At this time, the girl thought that this seemed to be the consequences of yesterday's speech of the wise king. The young gentleman asks why she is smiling like that, and then says that if anyone saw her now, they would think that she had just received a call saying that she had received top marks on her entrance exams. Claude claims that she will be the one who gets called and says that usually in such cases, the first call is to the guardians of the applicants. The young lady wonders since when he became her guardian. The king informs that for randomly interned demons, without family members, recommenders are often registered as guardians, and so he suggests that the girl should better focus on doing her part in reproducing the novel, rather than this, since they don't have that much time. Siren says that it doesn't seem like the Demon Lord is the only one who should show up at the academy on time, and asks if that's the case. Then he suggests that they begin. The girl reads that the elemental determination is being conducted under the supervision of the Demon Lord, and she says that today is a light episode. She asks how long it will last. The young gentleman replies that 9 minutes. She claims that she is uncomfortable in this position because her legs are shaking and she is not trained. Siren asks His Majesty when he will kiss her neck. He says that she is rather impatient. The lady reports that her legs hurt so much that it seems as if she is dying. The king says that next time, she should consider the main character's endurance when writing. Then he suggests that she sit down. The girl wonders if she can sit on him. Claude asks if it's not enough for her that he holds her by the waist. The main character puts her legs around his waist and apologizes and explains that she cannot stretch her legs. At this time, the king thought that since she entered the academy, she would probably have to attend fitness classes as well. If she was so weak, then most likely the exam period would be difficult for her over time. The girl thought that because their faces were so close, it was hard for her to find fault with anything. She suggested that he hurry up and kiss her, because they would have to finish soon. The king thought she meant the script, but suddenly the phone rang, and she didn't understand why at that moment. Claude asks what Spica Black is. At this time, the girl thought that this was not the name of the academy editor, and she wondered if she really became the best applicant. The young master quickly kissed the girl on the neck. She hears him say that he is the guardian of Siren, and asks what is the matter. The young lady says that she was just joking and asks if it is true, and they will give her a scholarship. However, the man is silent, and she screams and asks what happened. He answers that they will see each other later. Siren remembered that she told her mother that if she decided to do something, she would see it through to the end, and she believed that she had kept her promise to study hard in her next life. Claude asks how this should be understood, and he is interested in how it is even possible that she failed all the subjects, except one. The young gentleman explains that he was just informed that she failed all her subjects except Korean. He says that this makes him wonder why she even talked about getting an A. The young lady explains that there was not a single question that she did not understand, and then explains that she simply did not know what the correct answer was. He asks if she is laughing at him now. Siren thought that she just wanted to burst into tears right now. Claude reports that the reactor asked why he recommended an unqualified student, and she also stated that she herself would not be affected by this. The master says that according to standard rules, accidentally incarnated demons who failed the exams must come to consult with their guardians, but he does not have time for that. He claims that she will go with Vilya, and hearing this, the main character thought that it meant that he was too ashamed to appear in public with a talentless student. She silently asked her mother for forgiveness, because she thought that it seemed that she was also useless in this life. Sitting in the car, the girl suggests that Miss Author not to worry, since this is just an excuse to show her face, and it means that they are going to algebra consultations. Siren says that this loser has nothing to say to Her Highness. Vilya says that there are more important matters, such as the schedule for playing scenes and external work. The main character asks if the demon lord even wanted her to be his concubine. The queen replies that of course he wanted it, and asks if the author probably wants to know why she is so diligently trying to bring her closer to his highness. Willia says that just touching Claude makes her ignite with anger, like a match, and she hates the black light because of the darkness that envelops the demon lord. The queen says that 7 years ago, on the day the war ended, she witnessed the natural birth of darkness, and she says that she does not resent Claude for wounding her brother, because she understands that if he had not sealed him, she might have had to kill him herself. The queen claims that this is what the public wanted after all, because both her father and brother were out of their minds, and they were the most brutal of tyrants. Stealing her throne was not enough for him, and her brother was not insatiable and was finishing off their citizens. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had already seen this in the book, and before Claude came to power, the lord of the continent exploited his citizens day and night. Vilya reports that because of this, some demons secretly fled from these continents to neutral lands. However, it may have been because he was her only remaining family, and when she saw his dying body, she felt the need to save him. Siren asks if that is why she agreed to help His Majesty. Her Majesty replies that she was confident in her ability to give political advice, and having a direct line from the Idara royal family would be a fun argument for succession. Legitimacy is extremely important in the Jogasa dynasty. Even being a famous war hero, it is unlikely that a randomly reincarnated demon will become emperor. Willia says that His Majesty is a good ruler, and also the emperor of the demon kingdom, and she believes that there is no greater gift that he can bestow upon his people than the unification of the entire kingdom. The queen turns to the author and takes her hand, and then says that be that as it may, she asks that the lady become His Majesty's concubine. Vilya states that she plans to return to Itara after His Majesty has achieved his goals, but for now she is here, and therefore tries to strictly fulfill her duties as a queen. Siren asks if a new queen appears in the Empire of Night, will she return to Itara? The queen replies that she may not be able to leave right away, but if she does, it will be all right, because there will be no need to issue an official decree about her departure. She says that she thinks she will spend her time in the secret room, reading her books, or going for a drive. The author asks if she thought about just running away. The queen replies that the elemental and wind gem accelerates healing, and in any case, she thought she would die either from depression or stress. But she was delighted when the author arrived in the demon realm. Willia suggests that the girl prepare herself mentally, since it is only a matter of time before His Majesty confesses to her. And then she says that such a workaholic as he suddenly stared into space and rubbed his lips with the back of his hand. It means that he is in love. The queen explains that there is no way he could have fallen in love with her, since he would not even allow her to sit next to him until she had learned the ways of government and monarchy. Her Majesty says that she will do everything in her power to enroll the author in the academy, and therefore advises her not to worry. Hearing this, the main character realized that the demon lord did not like her, but she wondered why Her Highness was trying so hard to enroll her in the academy. Willia says that she should play the academy scene later instead, and asks if she understood. At this time, a woman approaches them and says that she greets the queen of the Empire of the Night. The queen turns to Rector Speak and asks if she could explain what the problem is. The woman suggests that Her Highness take a look at it first, and then says that with such grades, it will be difficult for her to study at the academy. She asks why His Majesty personally recommended this lady. Willia explains that because she is the royal author, determining the future of the royal palace, having a diverse background is the basis for creativity. Hearing this, the main character felt awkward. The rector suddenly approached the girl and then touched her chin, and then she turned around and said that if this is an order from His Majesty, then he thinks it is worth following. Siren realized that this woman had used magic on her, but she wondered what she had done. Rector Spica turns to the girl and asks if he can go with her and look at her stone. At this time, the professor was sorting the students. He says that Jade Redstone has been assigned to Class A. Seeing this, the main character thought that the meaning of the stone is determined with the help of the moonlight crystal. Moonlight crystals are more valuable than diamonds in the human world, and once magic is introduced into the crystal, it will last until it breaks. Because of this, the crystals used to transmit magical power, and those containing one-time magic, are imported illegally. The girl realized that this is why the entrance ticket to the academy is so expensive. Siren asks Her Majesty why the student is crying. She explains that he did not manifest his stone, and then asks if she noticed that the moonlight crystal in his hands has not changed. The main character wonders what will happen if someone does not manifest the stone. The queen explains that most drop out because the academy's training focuses on elementary magic. The young lady looked at the guy and remembered that he was already here. The king turns to Rayfield and asks him to help him evaluate the element of the next student who failed. The gentleman gives the girl a stone and tells her not to be nervous, but to take it and close her eyes. After a few minutes, the librarian says in surprise that this cannot be, because he sees an element of light. Siren asks if he means the element of fire. He states that it is not fire but light. He then states that the lady has the same element as His Majesty. Hearing this, the girl thought that she had the element of light, and she was not just a randomly materialized demon. Hearing this, everyone was surprised. His Majesty was so shocked that she had the rarest of all elements that he lost consciousness and fell. The queen, screaming, suggests that they hurry and take His Majesty to the palace. Siren realized that this wasn't like a normal faint. The spoke reactor asks the librarian if she really has the light element. He replies that it seems like it. At this time, the main character thought that she had the element of light, and she did not understand why something so important happened to her. And also, it is interesting why the demon lord fainted at this very moment and thinks that she is even more abnormal than not having elements at all. Kermit touches the girl on the shoulder and says that she really is the one who causes trouble everywhere she goes. The guy says that if he had known she had the element, he would have bought the stock. She asks if he thinks she knew. Kermit says that he congratulates her anyway, and then tells her that she will be in his class. Kermit reminds her that yesterday she said the questions were easy. At that time, the girl thought that if everything was as usual, she would have spent half the day chatting with him about how she failed the exam. The main character thinks that all she can think about is her worries about the fainted demon lord. She knows that yesterday, and even this morning, he was fine. The reactor speaks to the lady and says that the first thing she suggests is to return to the palace of the demon lord. Siren wonders if something like this has happened to the demon lord, before Rosalia explains that this is the first time he has lost consciousness, and believes that he is the type to always take good care of his health. The main character asks what bad habits the demon lord has. The maid explains that His Majesty usually stays up all night and resolves state affairs by eating sweets like caramel. He also constantly overworks himself. Upon hearing this, The girl thought that this explained a lot, but she believed that in the end, people also do this regularly. Demons are a species that get their sustenance from committing sins. However, sinning does not necessarily mean committing acts, such as stealing or murder. And rather, it can be the little things in life. The young lady, however, did not expect that the demon lord liked sweets. After all, he seemed like a person who ate healthy, but ate caramels. Well, when the lady entered the king's room, she saw Daphne Rain, who was the captain of the Silver Wind Knights. She is a wind elementalist and specializes in healing magic. Claude asks how long he was unconscious. Daphne replies that it has been 30 minutes and reports that he has no internal or external injuries. The woman says that His Majesty's element is darkness and Miss Author's element is light. The queen recalls that during the war, she leafed through a book called About Light and Darkness. However, she does not know the details, but she remembers that it mentioned that the elements of light and darkness can influence each other. Claude says that the nobles ordered the information about the light's alimony to be locked away, and therefore not much is known about it. The girl says that she must have read it somewhere at the beginning of the war, since the censorship on the book appeared at the end of it, and perhaps the book was from a noble collection. The librarian asks Segan if she knows about the book the queen mentioned. She replies that she has never had reason to seek information about the element of light, but she will do so now. The main character thought that even despite how much time she had been in the Demon Kingdom, not everything was clear yet, and she did not understand why, in such situations, they only use modern technologies, because she believed that they could simply search with the help of magic. Speaker reports that she managed to find the book they mentioned, Light and Darkness. Hearing this, the girl thought about how the librarian had just mentioned that he had no information about the element of light, and she didn't understand why no one else thought it was strange. The young gentleman asks Willia if she remembers anything else. She replies that since she only skimmed through the book, it is difficult for her to remember. Her Majesty thought for a moment, and then said that light is the element that is most easily polluted. Because of this, they are extremely sensitive to alcohol and poisons. The queen says that it looks like Siren really is a light elementalist. Siren thanks for the confirmation and says that she thinks she should step outside for a minute. The main character thought that she should write to Dylan. After all, he must have wondered why she got drunk just after trying alcohol. The girl doesn't understand if she was desperately hoping that the demon lord would die after he fainted. She wonders why she feels so irritated when she sees him recovering. Daphne screams and reports that the demon lord has lost consciousness again. The queen asks His Majesty if he has enough strength to summon the crown. Suddenly, a shadow knight appeared in the room and asked His Majesty if he had called him. Siren asks the commander if he is okay. He replies that he is not okay and also asks if he feels better, because Miss came closer. Willia reports that since His Majesty requires rest, she suggests that everyone return to their work. The maid informs the mistress that Sir Corin has arrived. He explains that he has come by order of Her Highness. Ray says that the two of them are truly a fated couple, and he never thought that they were a couple of light and darkness. Siren asks if she has a light element. Does that mean she has healing abilities? And says that in games, light magic users are usually healers. Coron says that he thinks that Miss Author is the only one who can heal His Majesty. She wonders about what he said earlier about returning to their positions. The knight asks how he can ask only Miss Author to remain in the public eye. He also asks if she is thinking of leaving the demon lord to die like this. The main character looked at the king and wondered why he was naked. After all, she knows that he always tries to take a cold shower. But now he has a raging fever and cannot control his body, and she does not understand what this all means. Scattering flower petals around the patient is a home remedy of Atara. She asks, what about these candles? The queen says that it is not for creating a romantic atmosphere and is to stabilize the patient with aromatherapy. Siren says in surprise that the bath bombs are a blindfold and feathers. The queen says that from the drawings, the tub looks big enough to hold them both. Then she says that she will leave them at that. The young lady screams that she doesn't want it. Willia says that it also has a bubble bath function, and so suggests that they try it. Siren doesn't understand what it is because there is no button to stop the music. The young gentleman asks the girl if she is going to turn it off, and she says in order to avoid misunderstanding, it was not she who turned it on. Claude says he didn't expect that and wonders if she's staring at him too much. The lady explains that she was just worried he might fall, and at that moment, she thought about what kind of guy would be so tempting while he was sick. The main character thinks that he must really be unwell, and then she turns to His Majesty and says that he should lie down. Hearing this, he asks in surprise what she is talking about. The young lady asks why he is so surprised that she offers him to lie down and rest. Claude tells the girl not to drool. She asks who said she likes his body. The young gentleman explains that he did not say anything, just his body. Hearing this, girl coughed, and then asks His Majesty how he feels. He answers that his head is splitting. Siren puts a wet towel on his head and asks if it's better this way. He tells her that it would be better if she did what she wanted to do silently. The girl suggests just not telling her that he being in such a state is going to continue playing scenes from the list. Claude explains that he is telling her to stay within his line of sight instead of wandering around aimlessly. Hearing this, the girl thinks that he means something else. The young lady lay down next to the gentleman and asked if everything would be okay if she lay so close. The king says that his headache is gone. At this time, the young lady thought that even when sick, their demon lord looks attractive. His hair is still damp, and he smells like fresh soap, and his gaze seems softer than usual, and that protruding Adam's apple. The young gentleman says that her gaze is lowering lower and lower. Zarin lifted the blanket, and he says that he didn't know that she would come. The main character says that, until he becomes a wise ruler who smiles so hard that his mouth hurts, she can't let him die. And so since she stayed in his palace, she will also be there. At this time, the main character thought that, if she had not been sued, she would have immediately admitted her feelings. And she does not understand how a person can be so beautiful. The young lady asks His Majesty if he could lie down so that he could look the other way. He wonders if she can resist his gaze. The girl objects and says that his face is simply too handsome, and that is why he could turn over. The main character thought that his gaze became even more frank. Because of the way he smiles with that perfect face, her heart beats faster. Siren asks what color His Majesty's eyes are. He replies that they are black, but she thinks they are blue-violet. The girl says that if you look closely, his hair and eyes are the same color, dark blue, violet, and then asks the one who appeared 7 years ago, still does not know his own eye color. The main character asks His Majesty if it is true that he eats sweets before going to bed. He tells her to keep quiet. The young lady reports that when he passed out, she thought it was due to stress. The young gentleman asks what she means. The lady explains that she thought that her light element and its opposite could raise his blood pressure, thereby causing him to pass out. And she thinks that their first meeting was far from ideal. And for example, how the owners of the elements of water and fire do not get along with each other. After all, she thinks that it is absurd that the student who failed his exams has the element of light. The gentleman says that he would have laughed if the results of her test had not revealed any element, and then he says that he knew that she would have the element of light. Having heard this, the girl was surprised. Claude asks if she understands how important the wielder of the light element is. Siren reports that she heard that, according to the modification of the moonstone, crystal demons can have the elements of earth water, fire wind, or none at all. Among all of the above, there is only one element of light. This means that her element is very rare. The young master says that this also means that she is in great danger, and she must be more careful. After all, if the group that opposes the owners of the elements, although it considers that it is not so active. Hearing this, the girl screams and asks what she should do then, and also wonders if it was in vain that she entered the academy. Claude asks if he should sign somewhere else so that she can't get in. She asks if he's in pain anymore, because he keeps smiling and even joking. The guy says he thinks about it every time he takes a shower. The young lady says he feels better now, and so she asks if maybe she should leave then. Suddenly, the young gentleman hugs the girl around the waist, and then says that now that he thinks about it, he wonders if there was a similar scene in the novel. Red flower petals scattered on the bed, the main character and the main heroine lie down drowsy. Given the circumstances, the gentleman thinks he might as well cross that scene off the list while they're in this situation. The guy tells the girl to calm down, and then explains that this is only done so that his subjects don't serve time. She understands that if everything continues as in the book, The next step is obviously a kiss. Siren asks if he's going to do it, then suggests doing it quickly. He asks what if he doesn't want to. At this time, the main character thought that now, according to the script, the demon lord would confess his feelings, and she, as the main character, Irene, would give the obvious answers. Suddenly, the boy kisses the girl. She asks in surprise if the kiss should come first. He calls her Siren. The girl says that it looks like he forgot a little and mixed up the lines, and asks if it's true. He replies that he doesn't think so, and then explains that it's not because he doesn't remember the lines of the novel. Claude kisses the girl on the lips again. She asks if he is drunk. The gentleman says that, considering that he is fine, and asks why he should be drunk. The young lady asks if the demon lord is upset with her. He replies that he may have a personal interest in her. Then he asks if she likes him. Siren turns to His Majesty and asks if he could tell her what he truly feels for her. He says he will say it more simply that he knows her. The guy says that he knows what she likes, but since her pride does not allow her to admit it, he asks if he is telling the truth. The girl says that she can tell a lot just by looking at a person, because she is a novelist after all. He asks what if he tells the truth that she is wrong. The main character claims that he doesn't say it. It doesn't matter, because now that she said it, this thought will constantly spin in his head, and he will think that he really likes her. The young lady kisses the guy on the lips and says that he is her master, and his feelings are obvious to everyone. Siren muses that the reason he sued her was because he couldn't tell the difference between frustration and love. The girl remembers that she told His Majesty that if he does not admit that he likes her, then she is free to play with him. Hearing this, he then asked if she thought he would allow this to happen. The young lady says that this is exactly it, because first she will kiss him and then ignore him. And she also says that she will send him a message saying that she wants to see him and stop answering. The main character asks if his feelings will be hurt if there is someone equally beautiful who will charm him and then leave without even deigning to look at him. Siren asks the guy if he will admit now that doing what he did, staring at her, will not change the fact that he likes her, and his head is spinning and his heart is pounding. Claude claims that he won't be the first to confess his feelings. She asks if this is true, and then says that it's a pity, because she so wanted to kiss him if he confessed his love to her. The young gentleman asks if she is serious. The lady explains that it was just a little kiss and nothing more, and then asks if he thinks he will die in regret. The main character wonders if he still hasn't confessed, and then says that he's doing great and doing whatever he wants, because now she knows that he's the type of person who will choose the hard way rather than the shortest one. Siren thought that it didn't matter how great the Demon Lord War hero was, since she believed that this fight would end in her favor. The next morning, the young lady reports that she feels so refreshed after a long-awaited night's sleep. The main character tells His Majesty that she knows that she is pretty, and then says that if he doesn't stop looking at her so intently, she will burn a hole in her ooh. Claude asks the girl if she was going to the academy. She offers to give her something to eat first. His Majesty asks if he can feed her with a spoon. Hearing this, she is surprised, and then says that a man becomes so docile when he is in love. The king says that, to be honest, she is very noisy. She asks if he likes listening to her voice. And when the gentleman left, the maid asked Milady what she would like to try first. And when she looked at the prepared breakfast, her mouth even started to water. On the way to the academy, the girl saw Kermit. He asks if she read Jeriel's post today. Then he explains that there was an article about how the revealed identities of elemental users are now prohibited by law. The guy says that it seems like the Demon Lord really values her. Kermit claims that he made the right decision when he bought out all the shares related to the concubines. At this time, the main character thought that this is an example of hasty legislation because she knows that the Demon Lord uses his power to protect her because he loves her. Siren asks the boy what classes he is signing up for. He says that they don't have to choose, and explains that the choice of classes depends on the grade, and that's why Class A is chosen first. Accordingly, those who got in through connections like Class F attend the remaining lectures. Siren points at the other guy and says that they'll start by saying that Class F won't be able to understand the Knight Commander's lectures. The guy in the red shirt says that he is Jay Gerald, the youngest son of a newspaper magnate who is listed in the top 10 of the demon world, and he should have received the most attention among the newcomers. The main character says that if this is the royal court, Then Jareel is printing the posts, and then claims that he is a member of the group famous for his night work and conducting night investigations. The guy asks if it's the first time she's seen a vampire. Hearing this, the main character thinks that the son of a conglomerate is also a vampire, and he's perfect for a teen novel. And she thinks that this has stirred the blood of the young erotic novelist. Siren asks Mr. Vampire if he belongs to Class A. He replies that she was right, because he was originally supposed to be the center of attention. The vampire says that Siren, as the one who diverted all interest to his person, he challenges her to a duel. Hearing this, the main character asks in surprise what he means by a duel, and then says that she doesn't even know how to cast a spell and gets exhausted after running the second lap around the field. Jane Ostrogamaya says that once she discovered that she was a light elementalist, he didn't get a drop of attention. The girl tells him not to be so greedy, and then asks if it's not enough for him to be the best applicant. The vampire says that it doesn't matter, and all that matters to him is the trust of His Majesty Claude. After all, he understands that His Majesty receives enormous support from all over the demon world, and it is even comparable to the support that an idol group receives when they are at the peak of their popularity and announce a world tour. The main character thought that if this guy Jane knew how she treated the demon lord before she came here in the morning, she thinks that for her, everything would probably end badly. The vampire asks what of it that he respects him for, and then explains that compared to those overlords who lived before the war, he actually has something to respect, because he freed the slaves exploited by the overlords, established anti-discrimination laws, and was even generous enough to forgive his enemies. Siren agrees with him and says that their demon lord is definitely the best. And at that time, she thought that they would just play along with him to avoid a duel. Jane, screaming, says that this man always holds the audience at the expense of the best students of each year. But because of her hearing this, the girl does not understand why she is accused of the fact that the Demon King forgot about it. The vampire asks how someone like her got into the academy, and he doesn't understand how a light elementalist got into Class F. The main character claims that she was only able to get in thanks to the Demon Lord, and wonders why he keeps pestering her. Kermit says they are too loud, and it is causing them trouble. Jane looks at the guy and asks who he is, that annoying dog that never stops barking. He replies that Kermit, just like Siren, received a bad score on the exam and entered Class F. Hearing this, the vampire says that he heard that he was called to the rector because of the incident with the bats, and asks if he is a resident of the Empire of Light. Jane claims that these despicable bastards from the Empire of Light, and to think that the Lord of Demons forgave them for a crime worthy of execution, but they did not even swear allegiance to him. Kermit tells the vampire to shut up, because he thinks he's only fit to be the king of fools. The main character turns to the vampire and says that the meeting between Kermit and the rector happened because he failed, and so did she. Jane asks if losers are allowed to talk to the rector, and also wonders if she will remove her. He turns to the guy and asks why he doesn't make life easier for the commander of the knights and just leave himself. Kermit says, "Wow." Then he reveals that his object of interest is actually interested in a loser with the element of light. The young lady tells him to wait and asks why she is being dragged into this. She also asks why she is not the loser he is interested in. The vampire turns to Siren and says that he is challenging her to a duel. He then offers to get her weapon since duels are allowed at the academy. The young lady explains that she can't even use magic. He tells her not to make him laugh because she is a light elementalist, and he wonders why she can't fight. Kermit says he wants to see the wielder of the element of light fight. The vampire pulled out his sword and said that if she was so inept, she had no chance of training here. At this time, the girl was scared, but suddenly saw how the ropes tied the vampire's body. The commander turns to the guy and asks if he is Jane from Class A. Then he says that he is in the middle of a duel with their shorties. The vampire asks the captains why they tied him up. The master replies that if the girl gets hurt, his rich friend won't buy him a drink. Corin turns to Mr. Jane and says that he is already able to control fire at such a level and finds it amazing because his concentration is worthy of praise. The vampire tells the commander of the Blue Knights that nothing special. The commander gives the guy the sword and tells him that he received an urgent order this morning and therefore is afraid that he must demand that the duel be stopped, since they were told that if the owner of the element of light loses even one hair from their head, they will be executed. Hearing this, the main character asks, "Who said that?" Karan asks the shorty, who she thinks could have said that. She is surprised and asks if His Majesty Claude said that. Jane asks in surprise why His Majesty would do this for someone like her. Siren asks the vampire what he thinks about this. He also wonders if it wouldn't be better for him to retreat. The captain says that protecting the wielder of the light element will soon become a matter of national importance. However, they won't know her power until they run a few tests. Dylan claims that their research will be enough and invites Mr. Jane to go with him to the lecture hall. James asks in surprise if he should go with the commander of the Blue Knights. He says that he should go with the one he admires most. Dylan reports that this time he was assigned to beat the class teachers of Class A. Corin says that before him, he was the class teacher of Class F. Kermit tells the girl that they should go and sign up for classes too, since they have no choice. The man says that the most popular course is taught by the commander of the Blue Knights, and it is already full. Also, Class A is the first to register, and they have taken all the spots. Standing under the notice board, they realized that there really was nowhere to register. The main character says that the Knight commanders must also be busy. Kermit says that one way or another, there is an order that the esteemed demons of the Empire of Light must be chosen for the position of Knight Commander, and he reports that he read about it on the information board. Before the war between the Empires of Light and Darkness, the continent was ruled by 4 powerful families: Celia, Water; Roy, Fell; Earth; Warrit, Air; Elita, Fire. The 4 clans were experts in their elements. Naturally, this led to the head of each house becoming the lord of his territory, who was called the Master of the Elements. Etara, Air; Kalipo, Earth; Hail, Water; Polaris; Fire, Continent of Light. They named their territory after their clans. The current palace of the Demon Lord originally belonged to Cielia. In truth, Celija of the Dark Empire and Atra of the Light Empire ruled their lands together. But that was 7 years ago. After the Demon Lord destroyed the Lord, stones, the power to maintain public order with magic, disappeared. However, Siren realized that something was wrong. Idara survived, thanks to Her Majesty's fake marriage contract. The main character asks Kermit how the Celian clan survived the war. He replies that it was through corruption and deception, and he believes that since they survived on their own, it was not an honest way. Kermit says that he means that the Demon Lord knew that Abel was not a pure-blooded Celia. Hearing this, the girl is surprised and asks if Sir Abel is of the bloodline. The guy replies that as she sees it, he was born one night from a concubine, and he believes that initially his brother should have been the Lord of Celia. The young lady thinks it is strange because she heard that all the lords before the war were tyrants, but Abel did not rule with a dictatorship. However, any facts about the war were hushed up and kept secret, so despite the fact that a year has passed since the main character got into the demon world, she still does not know anything specific about this war. Kermit reports that he killed his brother, who was supposed to take the place of the next lord. This is how the youngest of the family, Sir Abel, could inherit the title, and he understands that, in any case, Abel, despite his lack of combat experience, was sent by Cielia as a lord in the last battle of Atara. Siren asks if the Demon Lord would have spared Sir Abel knowing this. In response, Sir Abel offers to give the palace to Cieli as thanks. The young lady thinks that there must be a reason why the Demon Lord spared Abel Lord Cieli. Traditionally, Lord Cielia rules the Empire of the Theme as its lord, and he could not sit him for the sake of a whim. And the girl believes that it is clearly behind this. Kermit claims that it is true, and the girl asks if he also read it on the information board. The guy answers that it is either true or not. Siren says that they really screwed up the registration, and she wonders if there is a person who has such a schedule. The girl wonders if she really needs to attend classes as written in the schedule. The guard offers to let him take a look. He says that this is terrible because they should have signed up for classes earlier, and therefore he is afraid that he will not be able to help with this because they should go to the dean. The main character wondered if they thought she was late registering for classes because she wanted to. However, she realized that her schedule was a complete mess. The rector says that it looks like they were the last 2 to check in. The young lady explains that there was an incident. The guy says that Jane started a fight with them and calls him a bloody bloodsucker. Spica reports that they have a choice of either taking 2 courses each day and going home, or having all their classes fit into 2 days. The young lady says she'll take the 2-day option, and the guy says he will too. The rector of the Speaks agrees with them and asks how His Majesty is doing, and then says that she was surprised when she saw that he lost consciousness because she knows that he is usually in excellent shape. Siren says that Her Majesty remembered reading a book about divergence and prescribed the right medicine, and at that time, she thought that she shouldn't tell him that she had to sleep next to him. Spica says that she assumes that she means the book that Paul Sagan wrote about light and darkness. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, and the woman asks if she wants the royal librarian to restore his memory. The rector says she is not sure, because it could have been a bad memory that he wanted to get rid of. And the young lady asks, what if it was a good memory? The woman says that if this is so, she can help him restore his memory. And then she offers the girl to place her finger on the stone, which will create candies using her demonic power. Spica says to give her 1 candy a day, and then she will see gradual results. Hearing this, the girl was surprised and does not understand what she is talking about. The main character thought that she has demonic abilities that can cure amnesia, and she understands that this means there is a reason why she has light skin and hair, and she was also wondering if she was destined to become a healer. Spica says that now they are free. When the main character came to His Majesty, she says that it took them a long time to register. She asks if he was waiting for her. Siren wonders if he is telling her that, but thinks that he is not really that skilled in this love game, and asks if that is true. The young master says that he never said that he was waiting for her. The girl explains that she wanted to say that her registration did not go very well, and then she says that she will not appear at the palace 2 days a week. Claude asks if he should change his schedule for her. She asks why he is being so nice to her, her king. He explains that he is just worried about her spin-off series. The young lady says he is quite a handsome liar, and asks if he knew it. Claude wonders if she is not tired of looking at that face every day. The girl says that, of course not, because she is delighted every time, like the first time. He says that she could not be so late only because of registration, and asks if she got into trouble again. Siren suggests that he just say that he wants to know how her day went. He says that he is curious. The main character says that she heard that he loves her, and at that time, she thought that he can stare as much as he wants, but for her it is damn sexy. And then she says that she is not going to repeat it because she understands that he does not want to feel that he is losing the battle. The young gentleman says he doesn't think the virgin ghost has much power, and he says he forgot to thank her for the sandwiches. The girl saw a guy next to her and said that as soon as he admits that he likes her, only then will he be able to kiss her whenever he wants, and asks if that is true. Siren suggests waiting, and then says that editing and not at any time, but only when their eyes meet for a long time, or when she is in his arms. She says that she wants it to be romantic, and then says that he reads her books, and they should have the same preferences. Suddenly, the young gentleman puts his arm around the girl's waist and asks if that counts as being in her arms. He says that they have been making eye contact for quite some time now. At this time, the girl thought that she should remain strong and should be calm because the kiss should be a trifle for her. The main character does not understand why he does nothing but only looks at her. Claude kisses the girl on the lips and hugs her. At this time, the girl thought that he knows her book inside and out, and he knows exactly what she wants, and it drives her crazy. Siren stood on her toes, and at that moment thought that it was hard for her to stand like that, but she really wanted to stand. Suddenly, a shadow commander appeared in the room. He turns to his master and says that there is a serious question. Corin reports that he was heading to the continent of the day as he ordered, and asks if he did something wrong. The commander, screaming, says that he has a list of more than 50 recipes for signature sandwiches from Chef Gonzalez Gacho. Hearing this, the main character thought that this was her favorite cook in the demon world, and then she said that she would like some sandwiches. Coron turns to the king and says that he has served him for 7 years, but His Majesty does not need to be told that this order was given because of his affection for Miss Follix. At this time, the girl saw how his ears turned red and thought that it was very cute. Corin asks if he can assume that it is going to the kitchen, and then says that he hopes that the two of them have a good day. Siren approaches the king and says that getting her hands on sandwich recipes from the continent's most famous chef of the day is something she thinks is more than just a hobby. Claude says that he thought she was heading to the library and asks if that was true. However, the young lady asks if he has anything to tell her. The young gentleman replies that he has forgotten. She asks how he can forget when she is so pleasant to look at. However, the young gentleman turns around and leaves, and the girl screams for him to wait for her. Claude tells her to follow him. The young lady wonders what will happen if he suddenly stops loving her. When they arrived at the library, Her Majesty said that Claude must have come for the report and asked what brought Miss Falix here. Siren says that she would like to give this to the librarian. Hearing this, the man was surprised, and the girl says that this is true because the rector of the speak gave it to her. And she also said, Willia interrupts the girl and says that her idea is quite good, and then thanks Miss Falix for her attention. The main character asks if the rector is an expert on divergence. She replies that perhaps so, because she is the most devoted member of the Dawn Society. Hearing this, the young lady thought that she was hearing the name of the Dawn Society for the second time, and she realized that if that vampire fan got angry when she mentioned this, then she wondered if they were vampire hunters. The young lady asked what the Dawn Society was. The queen explains that the Dawn Society can be seen as a religious group that worships the god who created this demon world. After all, their activities were mainly based on the continent of night, and before the war, they were subjected to numerous persecutions, and now this religion is considered heresy. Willia looked at the master and said that of course their gracious king forgave them. At this time, the main character thought that now she understands why Jane was so obsessed with the reactor, and then suggests checking this device first. Siren pressed the stone and light appeared, and when she opened the box, she saw speech inside that looked like candy. The library offers to let him try it. He ate the candy. Claude looks at Paul and asks what's wrong. The man says her magic tastes like peach, and his chronic migraines seem to be going away. Willia tells Paul that he will not get better overnight, and suggests that he make sure to take his medication every day. At this time, the girl thought that she was glad that her magic was helping, but did not understand what was wrong with the amnesia. The queen asked if the two of them were together, and then said that they looked good together. Villia asks if she mentioned that an envoy from the continent of Day will arrive in a few days. Then she tells her that whenever an envoy visits their king, throws a banquet for a whole week. Her Majesty says that the girl should join them. At this time, the queen thought that they were alone, and then she tells the girl that she caught her red-handedy. The main character realized that this lady knew about the kiss. The maid tells her mistress that she has good news, because my lady has received an invitation to a banquet in honor of the ambassador's arrival. Rosalia asks if she needs to prepare any dress. The lady replies that she believes Her Majesty will send a dress because she thinks she likes to give gifts. The maid asks Milady if she is familiar with the protocols. She replies that she is not and asks what she should do. Rosalia says that they still have a little time before the banquet, and so they can spend the whole night and make up for lost time. Hearing this, the main character thought that she would not sleep all night again. The maid says that the envoy's banquets are usually held for a large number of people. The royal palace will follow the Celian protocol. The young lady says that there is also the Celian protocol and asks if it is not the same for the entire demon world. Rosalia says that she said correctly, and then explains that the protocols are divided into two main categories of the continent of night and day. They represent slight differences between the four families. The maid says that since the royal palace is located in the Celian castle and uses its artifacts, the protocol will also follow Celian traditions. At this time, Siren thought that this place has quite a rich history, and there are modern publications outside the palace, but she does not understand why then the castle still resembles medieval times. After a few, the young lady asks if they have finished yet. However, the maid objects and says that they have just started, and then she says that the banquet is not a special event, but rather serves a social function. The maid says that since a messenger from the Day Continent will arrive, unresolved issues of both the Day Continent and the Night Continent will be discussed, and the librarian will explain everything to her better. The lady says that she believes Paul is still in the library and asks if Rosary will go with her. The maid says that Mr. Segan has a habit of asking her to write book reports every time she sees him. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and said that then she would go alone. Siren greeted Mr. Segan. He asked what brought her here, She explained. The librarian says he understands everything, and then suggests starting with a simple exam, testing her knowledge of current events and customs related to the continent of the day. Hearing this, the young lady thought that it looked like she would not be returning home anytime soon. Paul asks what the largest lake is in the Day Empire. She answers Lake Voxing. The man says that is incorrect and explains that Lake Voxing is located in the Night Empire, and the correct answer is Lake Whining. The librarian asks the next question and tells her to name the 4 families that ruled the empire in the days before the war. The girl replies that Ithera Kalipo. He says that Kalipo's answer is Earth faction, Hyle of the Water faction, Florus of the Fire faction, and Ithera of the Air faction. The librarian says that when they address the 4 families, they are talking about families that mastered their factional abilities before the war, and that does not include the families of the commanders. He asks how she managed to pass the exam at the academy. Suddenly, Claude comes to them and says that he made a request for information. And when he saw the girl, he asks in surprise why she is here. At this time, the young lady thought that he was grumbling, but his face spoke for itself. Siren addresses His Majesty and says that Siren Phalix, greets him. The young gentleman asks in surprise what these formalities are for. She explains that she is learning how to behave properly. Claude says that it is necessary to get used to protocols, especially when addressing the king. Hearing this, the girl wondered if she had bitten him too hard yesterday. He asks the librarian how the teaching is going. He explains that the main goal is to learn all the questions and answers in this pile, and therefore asks the lady to memorize them by next week. Siren apologized and then said that she would rather go and delve into her books. The king calls her Irene Yu. Hearing this, the girl asks why he is following her. The young master asks if he needs permission to walk on his own territory. Siren wonders if he could show a little respect for his tenant. He replies that he can't, and says that he thinks she will stand her ground. At this time, Claude thought that she had that look again. Suddenly, she kisses him on the lips and asks if this is not what he wanted. The young gentleman objects and says that the crystal has not even glowed yet, and then shows this stone. The main character asks if he wanted something obscene and wonders if they should look at the scripts. When the girl read the script, she thought that it looked quite complicated, and then asked if they could postpone all this until tomorrow's. Claude asks if she really thinks she has a say, and then reminds her that she has classes at the academy tomorrow. She suggests that they hurry up and finish all their work for today. The girl says that it will take some time and they need to hug and cuddle each other, since they have been whispering and kissing tenderly in bed for 3 hours, and therefore thinks that they need to make a plan for this. The king says that he understands that she just likes to lie in bed, and suggests that she say so. The gentleman sits down on the bed and tells the girl that he thought she was tired, and invites her to come to him and sit together. The main character explains that she is going to study the librarian's notes while they are busy doing this. Siren placed her hand on his chest and told them to start by kissing her hand. Claude first kissed his hand and then bit it. He offers her to resign herself, and the girl says that it hurts and asks why he has no manners. The main character claims that this material contains only questions and there are no answers. He says that perhaps this is magic paper and everything will manifest if she does everything correctly. The young lady asks if he will stop biting and then explains that it hurts. He says he doesn't want to, and she asks why he suddenly has a pleasant tone, and also wonders if he still admits that he has a crush on her. The guy claims that he won't be the first to admit this and offers to make her comfortable. The girl asks to let her ask him questions, and he will give her answers. The gentleman asks why this is so necessary. The lady answers because he is being questioned by her beloved Irene. The main character says that she asks the first question and suggests that he name the current commanders. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise how she cannot know the teachers of her own academy, and also asks if she knows the name of at least one subject. The lady replies that the only one she knows is Claude Stern. Siren smiled and said that he blushed because of this, and then asked if he was happy to hear that. Claude says that in the Empire of Darkness, the faction of the Earth is Ray Field, Water is Abel Celia, Flame is Victoria Scarlet Air, is Daphne Reyna, and also Coron is the Shadow Commander. The lady wonders if it's true that there isn't a single commander in the Empire of Light. He says that Iris Rain from the Water faction was exiled there. so all six are here. The main character asks if Iris is Daphne's older sister. She is also interested in the healer who came to help when he was unconscious. The girl asks the next question about which is the best publishing house in the Empire of the Night. She answers that she knows, and she calls it a demon. The young gentleman asks about the owner. She replies that he is Dylan Aldebaran, and he is her friend whom she knows. Siren saw the change on his face and asks if he's jealous. Then she says that if he's going to be so obvious, then just give in and say she's finished. At this time, the main character thought that she had a slight feeling that the couple would have behaved the same way. Claude asks what her relationship is with Aldebaran. She explains that he is her best friend and asks if he is happy. The guy replies that he is not yet, and then he touches the girl. The young gentleman asks Irene Yu in surprise if she knows what it is. The lady replies that she does not know. He asks if she is familiar with the 7 deadly sins. The young lady replies that she knows that they are pride, greed, anger, envy, lust, gluttony, and despondency. He says that is true, and states that the vices that the townspeople of the demon world strive for fall into one of these 7 categories, and rancor is cutting someone's hair to commit these sins. Collode says that each of the inhabitants has the beginnings of these vices, and the most famous chief of the county, Chief Gonzalez, has the beginnings of gluttony. So gluttony makes the inhabitants of the demon world want to taste more food. Siren asks, "What's so good about these beginnings?" And she wonders if it's something honorable. The young master explains that the embryo can affect the minds of the demon world's inhabitants depending on how much the demon is captured, and it will be different, and then gives an example that the embryo of gluttony can make her starve. Hearing this, the main character understood why she feels hungry every time she encounters Chief Gonzalez. And she asks about envy and who is greedy for him. She wonders if there is a seed of envy that will make demons envy him. The king asks the girl to guess, and then kisses her on the cheek. She says that he explained everything so well before, but doesn't understand why he can't answer now. And then he offers to at least tell her whether he is a man or a woman. The boy replies that it is a man. The young lady says that the man who is envied by Her Majesty's younger brother, and asks if this is true, and then explains that she means because he was a king. The girl says that Bilsbart Itara, and he has the beginnings of anger, and she is interested in how many citizens he angered, because of which he received such a title, and offers to give her a hint. The main character felt the gentleman's hand embrace her waist, and she became curious about where he was climbing. She asks Simeon if he also has a rudiment. The young lady asks His Highness Claude if he has envy in him. He replies that he does. Siren asks if he is the demon that is most envied in the demon world. Hearing this, the master says that it looks like they are almost done. She asks if he is upset. The girl understands that this is the last scene for today, and its highlight is in the question. And then she asks if he missed her. Claude suggests her to be quiet and then lie down on top of her and kiss her. At this time, the magic stone glowed a little. He suggests doing more for the research. The girl says that he scared her because she thought he meant something else. The maid turns to her mistress and suggests that she get up. The young lady asks if she has any classes today. Rosalia replies that she does not, and then informs her that there is a banquet today. At this point, the main character realized that she had spent all her time studying the material and therefore could not let it all go to waste. She remembered that the librarian had even given her last-minute advice. This is when Siren got dressed. The maid saw her and screamed, saying that she looks beautiful. She offers to comb the mistress's hair to the side. When the young lady entered the library, she said that she was here. However, in this place, there was only Abel. When she saw him, she was surprised, and then said that she would formally introduce herself to him and say her name, Sirene Falix, court author. The guy tells the girl that she looks like a completely different person. At this moment, the librarian enters the room and says that she makes him proud. The lady asks if it is true and smiles. And when the king enters the room, she asks what he looks like. Paul turns to the girl and asks her not to swear she agrees with him. At this time, Claude does not understand what he should answer her, and the young lady turns to Sir Corin and asks how she looks. He answers that she is magnificent and graceful. Siren tells him to continue. The knight states that Miss Folcus is like a ray of sunshine. She offers to give him a high five, and then turns to the master and says that there is no need to be jealous. The main character thought that since she received an atypical classification, for some reason the Shadow Commander lost half of his strength, and strangely enough, he recovers to 100% when he is near her. The girl noticed that the light was creating a darker shadow, and she thought that she had more important things to worry about, and she suggested watching the instruction. The guard shouts and announces that His Majesty Claude Stern has arrived. When Saren saw the king and queen, she became curious about what happened to Her Highness. Since there was probably one of her relatives in the group of representatives from the Empire of Light, she became curious about why the queen was downcast. The commander suggests to start the banquet. The young lady saw that instead of musicians, frogs will play, and she sees a frog orchestra for the first time. The commander asks Miss Falkus if she is ready for the dance. She apologizes, and then explains that she was not prepared for the dance. Suddenly, a girl with blonde hair comes up to them and asks the commander of the Blue Knights of the Empire of the Night, will he give her this dance? Abel objects and says that he will not allow. Iris Rain Lady asks why he refuses her again. Iris Rain is a captain of the water forces, temporarily residing in the Empire of Light. She is Lady Daphne's sister. Abel apologizes and explains to Lady Iris that he is not interested and also does not want to dance, especially when it comes to her. Iris says she will never give up and doesn't understand why he is always like this. She asks who this lady is, because she is the first one to see her. The main character comes closer to the girl and says that she is pleased to meet Lady Iris Rain, and then says that she is Siren Falix, a royal writer. Hearing this, Iris was surprised and asked if she was the royal author she had heard about. And then he said that he would be frank with her and asked what her relationship was with Abel. The main character tells her not to think, because they are not lovers, and explains that she is not in love with Sir Abel, so she has nothing to worry about. Iris asks the lady how she can trust her. She replies that she already has a man dear to her heart. The woman asks who this man is. At this time, the main character does not understand what she should answer. The king approaches them and asks Iris what business she has with the royal writer. Seeing the king, the lady was surprised, and then said that she was Iris Rain, captain of the water forces of the Empire of Light, and was glad to appear before him. Claude tells Iris that they have a lot to do tomorrow, and therefore suggests that she have a good rest after the banquet. She agrees with him and leaves. The young gentleman tells the girl that he thinks Iris considers her her sworn enemy. She says that if that is so, then she is interested, then she and Sir Abel are a couple in love. The king asks why she is smirking, and then says that just thinking about him made her so happy. Siren says that Iris would be curious to hear about it. She also says that she is curious how he manages to appear at the most opportune moment. She asks if Simeon thinks about her all the time. Claude asks if he invites her tonight, if she will come. The lady replies that she did not plan it, but thinks she will agree. The young gentleman asks why she and the lady interrupts him and tells him to fall in love with her. The girl touches his tie and then kisses him on the lips. She tells him to come to her room tonight because she will be waiting for him. Late in the evening, when the main character was in her room, and when she saw the guy, she asks if he is really here. And then she says that she is embarrassed that he comes at her call. Claude is told that he knows what she wants to say. The girl comes up to him and kisses him on the lips again. Siren asks if he can come a little closer, and then explains that she feels like she's going to fall. The king wonders who cares, and the lady says that she had no idea he was so impatient. Suddenly, the main character heard someone knocking on the door, and she became curious about who it could be. The girl suggests that the gentleman hide in the closet because she didn't want anyone to see him like that. When Siren opened the door, she asked Rosalie what happened. The maid explained to Milady that a guest had come to see her. The man states that his name is Eglin Etera, and then asks the lady if she is Siren, royal writer. The main character asks in surprise what he wanted to talk to her about. Egon Etara, judging by his name, is a relative of the queen and a member of the family that controlled the entire Empire of Light before the war. Unlike Villain, he is from a side branch of the family and has not inherited the throne until that moment. According to the librarian's notes, he was appointed ruler of Etara after the war, replacing the queen's brother. The man says that it seems the king couldn't take his eyes off her during the banquet and asks what her relationship is with him. Siren asks if he means His Majesty, then asks him to observe etiquette. She says that he would not believe her if she said that he was the one who granted this position. Egon asks how one can be tactful with a king without a pedigree, and says he doesn't think Arya is up to the job of queen. Hearing this, the girl asks how this relates to her. The man explains that Willia is the name they gave her in the Empire of Night, and in the Empire of Light, they call her Arya. He says that this girl has been causing trouble since she was a child. Cyrene turns to the man and asks him not to insult Her Majesty. Egon claims that she married a stranger, and the title of Queen of the Night is empty. However, thanks to her appearance, he managed to betroth her to a man from an unknown family. The main character turns to the man and says that if he has finished speaking, then she asks him to leave. He asks where her manners are and why she behaves so impudently. Siren states that she is loyal to the king of the Night Empire. He says that she trusts the one worshipped by the pagans and believes that he is not the blood heir, and asks if he should be the emperor. The man claims that the darkness is limitless, and he is just a shadow, and he claims that if he were the emperor, why didn't he seize all the power at once? And then he explains that Claude understands his shortcomings. The main character says that she knows that he is building the foundation necessary for a prosperous empire, and therefore she asks that the man leave. Eglon says that he will leave now, but one day His Majesty Beelzebub will wake up, and then he will remember her ignorance. The man says that they noticed that his shackles are getting softer, and that this can only mean that the seal's power is weakening. He then asks if she really thinks that the war ended 7 years ago. He claims that this is only the beginning. Eglon looked at the girl and said that for a royal writer, she looked pretty. At that time, the girl apologized and closed the door, but suddenly the man fell to the floor from the blow. Claude turns to the girl and tells her to calm down, and then says that he couldn't just leave it like that. The gentleman turns to Rosalie and tells her to bring the queen. He understands that it is still early, but suggests saying that her birthday present is ready. When the maid told the queen about this, she asked in surprise what kind of man would give gifts every year on different days. When Willia saw the man, she was surprised. And the king says that he thinks it is hard to see a cousin, although he understands that they were not particularly close. Claude says he's not sure today is the day, but wishes her a happy birthday. Willia says with a smile on her face that she asked him so many times to get rid of this man, and he suddenly decided to do it, and she wonders what came over him. The young gentleman explains that something has changed. The queen takes the medallion from the man and says that she believes it is part of the gift because it is an Aglin gem. Claude says that if that is her will, the stone will not be able to cope with her magic anyway. And then he says that he heard that Beelzebub's sorrow is weakening, and it seems to him that there is no chance left to inherit the throne. Hearing this, the queen was surprised, and the main character explains that Eglon mentioned that this was due to the weakening of His Majesty's magical powers, and then claims that this is true because the magic has dried up. The king explains that his magic has been reduced by half since last time. Hearing this, the main character realized that the reason why Sir Caron and the Dark Knights weakened was because His Majesty's magic decreased by half. Villiaria states that she thinks Claude's magic has decreased by half since she discovered her element. Siren is surprised and asks if it's because she has a light element. The queen explains that, simply put, this is true, and there are many sources of dark magic in the Empire, and it is based on the stones that each faction owns. The young lady asks if she received half of his magic powers after determining the light faction, and also wonders about the queen's magic. Willia explains that dark magic is divided into 2 groups. The first defines the elements of earth, fire, wind, and water, and the second includes the elements of light and darkness, which are different from them, and it did not affect her because she belongs to the first group. The queen looked at the man lying on the floor and said that it seemed to her that yesterday he was trying to marry her off in order to quickly take the throne. Siren asks the queen, who was supposed to be her fiancé. Willia replies that it doesn't matter anymore since he is no longer an empire, and then says that Claude didn't finish him off. Hearing this, the main character sighed calmly and said that this was her first thought. Claude turns to Miss Falix and says that midterms are about to begin and asks why they don't go into seclusion to study. He then says that he recommends a study, or better yet, a bedroom, since they have to justify the plot of the book. Hearing this, the girl screams and asks what midterm exams he says, since only training has already begun. The young gentleman claims that she has no time left at all. The queen explains that Class F is the first to take exams, and therefore she still has 2 weeks. Having heard this, the main character does not understand why this is happening to her. Siren looks at Kermit and asks if his stocks have dropped in price. He says they are fine, and explains that he is just a little busy studying for tests. However, the girl says that this is not like him. The vampire turns to Siren again and says that he is challenging her to a duel. Hearing this, the girl asks if he is tired of this. Jane explains that he meant exam results. Then he says that their combined results are against his. The girl thought that it was so low because she was only worth half. The vampire explains that this is because she was assigned to Class F, because she only answered half of the questions correctly on the entrance exam. And then he says it's 2 against 1. Jane says she treats the winner like a king for the rest of the episode. Siren says she's for it, and then asks what Kermit thinks about it. He asks if she can see that he's studying. Kermit says he'll count that as a yes, and asks if they win, he'll address them as kings. The vampire smiles and says, that's true, and he can already taste the sweet taste of victory. The main character thought that she had to win and nothing else, and she became interested in where her teacher was, because she had a question for him. When Siren found the teacher, she saw that he was talking to a girl and asking if she was busy after tea. Scarlet replies that she has to write exam questions. He asks how about visiting the castle and relaxing for a bit. And when the teacher looked back, he saw a girl and asked what was going on. When the girl with red hair saw the lady, she said that she was the famous royal writer. Siren approaches Sir Ray and asks if this is how he spends his free time. The captain asks the girl what she is doing here and also inquires whether she received an invitation to tea. Scarlet grabs the girl's hand and says that it's great and suggests going together. The main character asks Ray if he's coming too. The lady with red hair says that he wasn't invited. The captain says that he has no business being in a women's group. Scarlet approaches the lady and suggests she have some fun. When the tea party begins, the queen says that she feels great since Eglon died, and she is glad that in addition to this, she received his precious stone. The queen asks Mrs. Follix how the preparation for the exam is going. Siren replies that the test is not that easy, especially the levitation magic is difficult, and she understands that she must perform in front of the examiners. Willia turns to Iris and asks if she can give advice on training with magic, and also wonders if she can explain to Mrs. Follix how to properly control the mafia. Iris explains that she trained with a levitating pot filled with magma held above her head, and thus failure was equal to death. Hearing this, Scarlet says that she understands that the lady wants to be in the class and with Sir Abel, but wonders if she thinks it is too dangerous. Iris screams and asks what her Abel has to do with it. The lady with red hair asks if she just said her Abel, and then says that now she understands why she is still single, and thinks that all this time she loved the same person, and suggests that she continue in the same spirit because she can get into the Hall of Fame. Iris says that she is exactly the same as her mother. The lady with red hair says that they do not quarrel, and because she believes that her mother really was in the Hall of Fame. Scarlet says that she is a dragon from a family of dragons, and then asks if it is not obvious from her horns. The queen says that in any case, Iris can help Mrs. Follix with learning magic. However, the girl objects and apologizes and explains that she is already busy with a matter related to the thief. Willia says that she understands since Iris is in charge of gentlemanly thievery and therefore has no time at all, and then asks if she can brief the royal author. Iris explains that gentlemanly theft became a problem in the Empire of Light about 2 or 3 years ago. First, a thief announces his robbery successfully, steals something, and then returns it. Siren asks what the problem is then. The lady explains that they bypass all their security alarms and prison magic. However, of course, there are no problems there, because they still need to figure out what their goals and motives were. The woman explains that it was not given in the Empire of the Night that the official appeal was first announced. On the document, there is an emblem that's such crap that she saw somewhere but could not remember where exactly. And the queen reports that she saw the same emblem on the Eglon's business card, and then asks if this means that the gentlemen thieves and Beelzebub have joined forces. Villia believes that they want to join forces with His Majesty Beelzebub, and this is the signature of Eglon. Her Majesty says that if Beelzebub wakes up and unites with the army, it means that a new war is just around the corner. The main character looked at their business card and realized that they were insane. And since she thinks that this introduction is too noble for warmongers, Siren says that they have very few subscribers and little activity on the account. The queen turns to Iris and says that she wants her to analyze everything carefully and then report the results of the study. She replies that she will do as her queen wishes. The young lady sitting at her studies thought that she was doing quite well on the written exams. However, she realized that she had a problem with the skills test. The girl tried the vitamins that Dylan gave her and the tea that Rosalie brewed for her, but she was unable to master magic. The young lady remembered Iris's words about how she trained with a levitating pot filled with magma, holding it above her head, because she believed that failure was equal to death. And at that time, she thought that it turned out that she had only one way out. Siren knew that lava was too dangerous and thought it would be better to try with hot water since she thought she could. However, all her attempts to learn this magic failed, and the bowl filled with water kept falling. When Sir Abel saw the girl, he asked what she was doing. He said that if he had been a little late, then she could have gotten serious burns. The young gentleman offers the lady to move, and then informs her that this is punishment for training using the wrong method. The main character saw the cake. It says that the training is over for today, and suggests that she rest a little. Abel says that if she is in such a hurry, nothing will work out. And then he says that he can help her with her studies, and suggests that she let him know when she needs help. Siren asks the master if he came all this way to bring her cake. Abel says that somehow this palace has changed, and all the dirt and gloom has disappeared somewhere. The lady says that she heard that this part of the castle was the highest residence, since it was originally the castle of Celia. The former baron says that he is right in his assumptions, and she has many questions about the castle, and it is even curious why such an inquisitive girl as she did not have a single question for him. The main character says that she understands that it is indelicate to ask a person about the past. The man says that the secondary palace was the residence of Abel Cieli, and he is also the son of a concubine, and everything here is filled with warm memories. Abel says that before he was born, he had an older brother, and as the son of the queen, he will inherit all the family privileges at an early age and take his father's positions. The guy realizes that his mother was obviously a one-night stand, but she died giving birth to him. And then he says that he lived in the closet of the castle and was even forced to sit there on his birthday. The girl asks if his family kept him there so that he wouldn't run away. He says that, looking back, they did the right thing, although he didn't know it or understand it then because they didn't leave him there to die, and he had an old maid who took care of him. Abel says he remembers all of this, but he can't remember the face of his caregiver or the names of his relatives or what they did for him. He says he's lived long enough, but he still can't sort out his memories. The man reports that he was then sent to school and feels like he was thrown out of it. Since then, the memories have always stayed with him. And after some time, his brother died in the war, and he took his place. And then His Majesty appeared and put an end to the war. Abel states that he is infinitely grateful to His Majesty for appointing him as a commander. After all, he allowed him to serve using the name of Ciel, which he received at the very last moment. The main character heard this and didn't understand how this angel ended up here. Abel approaches Mrs. Falix and says he wants to thank her for beautifying the place. She claims she and her maid put a lot of effort into it. The lady asks if Lady Iris knows about her past. He replies that after he was accepted into the academy, Iris offered him a drink since they entered the academy at the same time as Ray Field. Hearing this, the girl pricked up her ears. He continues to say that this was the first time he got so drunk and assumed that he told them everything, but this is not certain. The gentleman says he thinks they pretend to know everything about him. She asks if he knew that Lady Iris was madly in love with him. Abel replies that he has no idea why she fell in love with him. The lady asks in surprise if he really has no idea. He asks what the lady thinks about it. Siren asks if he finds her attractive. Then he tells her that he can't leave until he thinks of something and suggests that he hurry up. Abel says that maybe because he's cute. Then he explains that he means that Iris reads his appearance as cute, not him. The main character tells Sir that he is really very nice. The young gentleman says that he must go and wishes the lady good luck in her exams. When the girl was left alone, she thought that if Lady Iris saw this, she would probably go crazy. Siren. While reading the book, she thought that she didn't have time for the trip. The young gentleman says that the road is a side, and Vilya begged him to help the successful student. And then he suggests that she open a textbook on physical research. The girl enthusiastically agrees with him because she understands that getting a lesson from the Demon King himself is not so easy. Claude says that the basic fighting positions of attack and defense using arms and legs are what she should know, and he suggests she try it. The young lady begins to show what she can do in martial arts. Seeing this, the young gentleman says that he doesn't even know where to start and asks if she's paying attention in class at all. The lady explains that she tried, but dozed off, and that she was doing strength training. Claude says that he will show her how it is done. Hearing this, the girl thought that this is the end. Siren asks if they can take a break. He asks for a break from what, and then states that she can't give up that easily. Claude suggests looking at the list and asks, how about they watch a movie on the couch? The main character is sitting on the couch, and the main character is lying on him. They are lying together, and the main character does not move until the main character falls asleep. The girl asks if he wants to sleep. Then why doesn't he go to bed? He replies that his conscience has awakened. Hearing this, she asks if he has a conscience. Siren says that naturally there is no nudity in this scene, which confirms that she has a conscience. Then she asks if he remembers that he has to remain motionless until the main character falls asleep. The young gentleman says that if she wants to sleep, then let her lie down. She pulls him by the hand and suggests that he lie down because she won't be able to sleep while he has something else on his mind. The lady opened the case and said that she wanted to see where the movie was. He asked in surprise why he needed so many flash drives. Siren replies that it is for her research, since she also saves her manuscripts on them, and then asks which flash drive was with the erotic film, since she can't turn it on here. The girl thought that she was playing Russian roulette, knowing that one of them had an indecent video. At that moment, the guy realized that she was hiding something and asked about it. The lady assures him that all is well, and then explains that she is simply looking for the perfect film for His Almighty Most Honorable Highness. He claims that any will do. The main character thought that she would leave it to fate and stuff the flash drive, and at this time, she wants it to be not that video for adults. Cartoons appeared on the screen, and the guy asked if this was the perfect movie for her. At this point, the girl sighed with relief. The girl turns to the king and explains that she cried her eyes out when she watched the film, and explains that it is a story about true friendship despite racial differences. Siren assures her that it is an eternal masterpiece and then turns to His Majesty and says that she can lie down now. He says that he advises her to get up, but the girl objects and says that she wants to take a nap. After a few minutes, the king realized that she had already fallen asleep quickly, and at that time, he thought about the rumors that the Ghost Maiden spends all her time preparing for exams, putting off all her affairs for later. Claude reflects that he is pleased to see that she is making so much effort because he understands that it is not easy to get used to life in the devil's house. After all, he understands that with such an attitude to work, she is ready to take any position given to her. The young gentleman thought that this lady could play any role, for example, the role of the queen. And at that time, he thought that he should not think so, because he understood that he must have been dreaming while playing Simeon for this scene. When the movie ended, the screen said that another video would start playing automatically if you didn't press cancel within 10 seconds. Claude read the title of the film, Fly High Bird, and thought that she loves birds. A few minutes later, an erotic film began. He thought that the girl quickly fell asleep, did not suspect what was happening now, and he realized that this was a little more difficult than he thought. The king thought about what if he refused to lift up from Siren or reaching for the remote control, because he can't wake up the main character or stop the video, and therefore he wants to hang himself from embarrassment. The young gentleman understands that he cannot sit and watch all 5,500 videos. Claude saw that the girl slid down a little, and her legs spread, and he wondered if she was making fun of him. And he also doesn't understand, because she made him go through this and can sleep peacefully. Siren quietly called his name. Hearing this, he thought that calling him in his sleep was unfair, and he would rather wait until she woke up herself. The young gentleman remembered that he can't touch the remote control, can't use magic, can't wake up with hugs or kisses or caresses, and can't talk. and he understands that he has many limitations and needs to use what he can to the maximum. Claude stroked her head, but she still didn't want to get up, and he thought about hugging her tightly so that she would wake up. The young lady doesn't even think about waking up, and he thought that she was making fun of him. And then he grabs her hand because he thinks he can touch her there. The king ponders that he needs to wake her up first, and he realizes that he is playing in forbidden territory. He tells the virgin ghost to get up. Siren asks if they have completed this point, and he became curious about what the demon king was thinking. The young gentleman switched the remote control and saw her preferences on the screen. He smiled because he understood that her preferences were clearly reflected in her novels, and these were sweet, tender, and warm hugs, and looking into each other's eyes was preferable to kissing. When the girl woke up, she didn't understand why her body felt so heavy, and she felt exhausted. The main character saw the sleeping king next to her and realized that this was yesterday's route. He woke up and asked how she slept. Siren asks if her king is okay, as he looks tired. However, he doesn't answer, and she thinks that she kicked him in her sleep or something. The lady asks if he is leaving. Claude asks if he is needed for anything else. She replies that he is not needed, but is sure that he must be very tired. The girl saw that the pendulum lit up with a red light. After all, she thought that yesterday's point had been failed, and she had to use magic to find out what had happened, since now she knew nothing. The main character thought that he seemed pretty angry about something. However, she realized that she needed to return to the palace because she still had to worry about the midterm exam. Siren heard the maid's surprised conversation about His Majesty sleeping at such a late hour, because they know that he is always so diligent and never forgets to keep track of his misdeeds. The young lady thought that this was a strange way of putting it, but she realized that it was useful information, since she knew that the Demon King was in his bedroom. At this time, Claude is in the bathroom and does not understand what is happening, because all these cold images do not give anything, and he cannot get these damn videos out of his head. Suddenly, the girl opens the door to his room and addresses His Majesty. And at this time, she does not understand, but for some reason it seems familiar to her. The young gentleman asks her what she wants. She explains that she came to appease his anger because he seemed upset to her. Claude grabs the girl and then puts her on the bed and asks why she drives him crazy, and then kisses her. At this time, the main character realized that he was not upset, and she was interested in what was happening right now, because she believes that she has finally turned from a virgin ghost into an ordinary and disobedient one. Claude says it was difficult trying to replace his motivations with research materials. The main character thought that she didn't want him to say that there was that folder on the flash drive last night, because she understood that this was the end of her life in this devilish world. Claude hugs and kisses the girl, and then asks what she wants him to do and calls her baby. The girl asks if he saw it. He says that she is beautifully avoiding the topic. Siren asks how much he saw. The young master replies that from beginning to end, and he was wondering why this manuscript was so well written, and he means about the virgin ghost. Everything is so meaningful. Claude says he's tired because he watched adult videos all night. Then he says he wants to sleep and that she should wake him up in 3 hours. After that, they'll start studying for the exam. A few hours later, Claude turns to the girl and says that she is a loser and that she has had enough of sleeping. She asks him to give her 5 more minutes. The young gentleman throws a book at her head and tells her that they will practice today. Then he asks if she is stuck on theories. The battered girl says that, as in the factional hierarchy, first fire, and then earth, then water, and the weakest wind. After all, France is closely connected with the individual. Claude suggests the girl to get her magic stone and start with wind magic. When she got the stone, she thought that it was still unpleasant. The young gentleman says that he will see how well she wields magic, and suggests that she first mentally place herself in the faction of choice, and then tells her to imagine that magical powers are growing out of her. The king asks what she imagined. The lady replies that a hurricane. He explains that the wind will be stronger than that from her hairdryer. Siren asks in surprise, who can do this on the first try, and says that he is abnormal. Claude says that if this is all she can do, he asks what she is going to do with fire magic. The girl says that she has a question, and if fire and earth are the strongest factions, then she is interested in why the strongest families are wind and water. Compared to earth and fire, water and wind can use their powers in a more subtle way, but of course it's all individual. The young master says that he has never seen divergent light, so whether she will open her faction is still unknown. The lady claims that she does not strive for this opening. A faction significantly increases the magical powers of the owner of the stone, but there is no standard method, just constant trial and error. Siren claims that her identity as a diffuse light will only reach the flash, and she says that now she would like to try light magic. Suddenly, a faint light appeared in the room. Claude asks if she calls it light. The girl screams and asks why he reacts so negatively, and then suggests that he help her instead. The main character squeezes the stone, and he asks what the sound is. The ladies ask if he means it, and show him the crystals, and then say that they are her light particles, and she thinks they are cute. The king asks why moon crystals appear from her hands. Hearing this, the main character smiles and says that she heard that they are very expensive. Claude says they have a higher frequency than those added to the old moon lake. He says he rarely sees moon crystals in the night area and believes this stone will be enough to take a vacation and live the rest of his life in abundance. Siren says that she can do it with her manuscripts, but thanks him. The guy claims that he has never heard of anyone creating crystals out of thin air and understands that it is all from the humble virgin ghost in the background. The young master thinks that in any case she is truly unusual. The girl turns to the king and says that with this crystal, it is much easier to use magic. And then she invites him to watch how she uses magic. The main character says that she thinks she has a chance to perform. He says that she can't do anything without the moon crystal and asks if this isn't a scam. The young lady smiled and said that the academy will give extra points to anyone who is not caught. He says that the lady went through a lot to become so evil. Hearing this, the girl says that she will take it as a compliment. Claude asks Willia what she knows about moon crystals. She replies that she knows enough, and it was a great way to make extra money through trading. The king reports that Siren can create crystals from thin air because the magic of diverging light hardens into moon crystals. The queen asks in surprise when this started, and he replies that it was about a week ago. Willia thought that this was the most popular tale about moon crystals, Zari's advice, and then reports that Claude will pay a visit there. The queen says he needs to talk to her about the cutie mark, and so suggests he make a date with Miss Pollux out of it. The master asks if she means the cutie mark on the Dawn Troop's calling card. Her Majesty says she remembers seeing the same sign on the wall in the principal's office. The main character says that Jane greatly underestimates them if she thinks she can win an argument against their results together. She believes that all that is left for the Demon King fan is to accept them with the respect they deserve. Hearing this, the vampire claims that it is not over, yet Kermit suggests that he prepare to meet them. Who knows? He asks where they got so much confidence, and then says that they will see. Siren tells John to look because His Majesty is there. Seeing the king, the guy is surprised, and then says that he just looked at him. The king turns to the guy and says that he heard that he was the first to come to the entrance exams, and then says that he expects many excellent results from him and smiles. Corin tells the gentleman that they have reported that President Spica has returned to her office. He says that is excellent and offers to visit her. Jane approaches Siren and tells her that he is grateful for the opportunity to see the Demon King up close. Kermit tells him that if he is so grateful, he should treat them to lunch. When the king came to the president's office, he saw the sign and thought that he was the one that Willia had spoken about. The woman turns to His Majesty and tells him that this is the emblem of the Council of Dawn. Then she asks how the King of Darkness ended up here. Claude says he will be honest and would like to know everything she knows about the moon crystals, and then says that he is waiting for an answer as a member of the council. The king asks if he can ask why she is interested in fairy tales with the concern of religion, and then says that he understands that she is the last survivor of this faith, because Siren Pollux is a light divergent who creates moon crystals with magic. The gentleman says that worshipping the source of light that created hell was his faith, as was that of his colleagues. She claims that it is, but that is already in the past. And then he says that being associated with an organization that believes in such heresy and pagans who believe in salvation from a non-existent light. And this is how the barons once defined the Council of Dawn. According to their teachings, moon crystals are the manifestation of the god of light, and the reason why moon crystals appear in the lake of the old moon, and this lake is the first creation of the source of light. And if this is so, then Siren is the carrier of the light of his god. Spica turns to her king and says that this is just a myth because there is no research on divergence, and the only source of information is these stories. The young master says that she speaks as if these are fairy tales. The woman says that who better than him to know that there is an hour of truth in these stories, and she thinks that he already feels it as soon as he gets closer to Miss Pollux, and his corrosion progresses. Claude asks if he keeps her by his side. Will she stop him? She says better as a loyal servant. He tells her not to stop him. Spica tells him that his wish is her command, and she knows he is a king worthy of her devotion. Then she tells him that the harsh cloud of darkness is there to aid him in his ascension as the High King of Hell, and she will help him. Kermit asks Jane what his problem is with the president. He replies that she can't choose a side. The young master says that he knows that during the war in the Night Sanctuary, there was a mass flight with the Wind of Dawn. Before the war, all of them, people left the Night Sanctuary and headed to the Twilight Zone, and the leader of the flight was Spitza. The vampire says that it was an attempt to escape the influence of the barons, or for the god of light to save them as in the legends. He says that everyone, except for Spica, died from that campaign. However, it is not surprising since most of them were without a faction, and also Baron Celius and Cerebella's father were hunting him. The president of the Spitza, as the only surviving member of the Council of Dawn, was banished from the sanctuary. Jane says he dislikes the president because of her faith, which was so stubborn that she put her life on the line and led the Exodus. The main character is interested in what is wrong with this. The vampire says that the council sees darkness as something bad. They see shadow as a post-product of light, or something like that. And as ironic as it may be, the one who saved them from tyranny and oppression is His Majesty, the King of Darkness. Siren says that she understands, because the king is their savior, since he ended the war and saved them from the barons. The vampire says that now, she knows that His Majesty also pardoned all the council members convicted of blasphemy. As a result of the king's debasement, the council's men were no longer welcome anywhere. When His Majesty began to gain support, the heretics either took their lives or fled. The humiliation of a war hero could not end well for them. To reduce the risk of unrest, His Majesty appointed Spica Black as president. She was brought from the Plantira Glacier along with the rest of the heretics. Jane says that if she can be president, then he can be a commander. The vampire saw the surprised looks and asked why not. And then he said that the convicted one is now the director, and Sir Victoria is not even human. Kermit claims that dragons are a completely different story because they were sacred even before the war. Jane screams and claims that vampires are sacred too. The guy asks what's so special about them, because he knows that the vampire commander won't suck blood from his colleagues. The vampire suggests not comparing fire with water. The knight tells the boys that the results have arrived, and then says that he was also very interested in how their argument ended. He says that he will reveal the results so that everything is fair, and the first Jane out of 800 points has all 800s. Hearing this, Saren says that being first on the list and having the best result on the first exam is unfair, and then asks what about her. Reactor says that Sirene has 700 points and extra points for evil deeds. He explains that she carried bags of moon crystals around campus, which pissed off the students. That's why she got an extra 100 points and is considered the best in Class F. Hearing this, the main character thought that all Kermit needed was 1 point for him to win. She thought that they had won this argument, and then turns to Jane and says that now he should call her Siren first. The rector announces that Kermit has received 0 points. The vampire asks the professor if he is sure, and then smiles. The man says he made a typo in his name and handed in the documents, which is why he got 0 points. He explains that this sometimes happens when students get too nervous on their first exam. The vampire says that now they can call him Master Jane, and then he offers them to order whatever they want. Kermit says that what's done is done, and so suggests that at least they eat, since she will never make a mistake with her choice again. He turns to Master Jane and asks if it is true that they can order whatever they want. He replies that they can do whatever they want. Kermit took a lot of bottles of booze and saw the vampire surprised, asking if he plans to drink it all. The lady says that she will spend the night here if she needs to end this. When the girl drank a couple of bottles, she thought that she forgot that she couldn't drink and then fell to the floor. She tells the guy not to worry about her because she thinks they'll go to the end. The main character pours Master Jane a drink and tells him that they are celebrating today and therefore offers him a drink. He looks at the full glass in surprise and asks if she wants him to drink it all. The girl says that if he can't handle it, then just let him say it like a little child. The vampire asks if they are trying to finish him off. The next morning, the main character touched her head, which was hurting, and asked how she got home. At that time, Dylan called her and asked how she passed her exams. Siren claims he's speaking like a worried parent. He says he's in a hurry and he's curious about what she got. She says she was 2 points short of a perfect score, but still lost to a vampire. Dylan smiles and says that this is great news and she deserves a gift. He says that he pulled some strings and was able to get them tickets to the signing event with Chef Gonzalez. The girl was surprised to hear this and then asked how he managed to do it. After all, she understands that these tickets are more valuable than a frog symphony orchestra. The guy says that he knows that he is her favorite chef, and that is why he had to do it. Siren asks if he abused his authority as his publisher to get those tickets. Then she says she knew it, but thanks him anyway. The editor asks if she could drop by his office next time before heading to the academy. The lady replies that of course she will stop by around 2 o'clock to say hello and grab those tickets. In the Tower of Aldebaran, the main character had no idea what awaited her in the afternoon. It was the day when students with the highest scores were praised. The top 10 students in the class were invited to a meeting with the school's principal, Spisa Hearing. The girl wondered if she had overdone it with her outfit. The young lady thought that first she would meet with the director and then see Dylan. Suddenly, Master Jane turns to her and asks in surprise, "Why her?" The girl says that she should not look at her like that hearing this. He turns his head. She says that today so many eyes are directed at hers. Jane says that she should know that students can't date each other at the academy, and then says that she will be caught and expelled. The lady turns to him and says that he is the only one who should be careful. He wonders why this girl is talking like that. Siren explains that it's because she's the type of person he falls in love with. He asks if she wasn't planning on coming in. She explains that she'll come in at the appointed time. Jane says that they'll see each other inside. The young lady greeted the director of the speak. And then she saw the Council of Dawn and realized that it was a religion that belittled the gloom of Claude Stern and the speak who had dedicated her life to this group. The main character realized that the bandage on her eye is her famous second eye. Spika says that this must be the first time she sees her second voice and asks how she likes this color. Suddenly, all the cards from the table fell to the ground. The woman says that the window was open and asks if she will help collect them. When the main character picked up one piece of paper, she read that today is 2 o'clock Tierison Tower and thought that this schedule and the place sounded familiar. Siren shows these cards and asks what she means. Spika says that this is the content of the prophecy. Hearing this, the girl was surprised because she became interested in what she was talking about. A guy comes into the room and greets the director. The woman says that now that the best student is with them, she suggests starting. At this time, the main character thought that she was very cold just a few minutes ago, and now she pretends that nothing happened, and she does not understand what is wrong here. When the girl went outside, the vampire asked where she was going. She replied that she would meet a friend near Verret. He said that they were going in the same direction and asked if she needed a ride. The young lady says that if that's the case, then let him give her a lift to the Aldebaran Tower. Hearing this, the guy thought that the Aldebaran family is a factionless family that has contributed to the development of the Nightshire economy. Siren asks why he went silent. He replies that nothing, and at that moment, he thought that she would never meet Delon Aldebaran because he is his third idol in the Devil's House. And he thinks that it would be strange if she had a friend who was such a high-flying bird. Master Jane asks what happened in the director's office, because she didn't look well. She asks if he knows what it is, and then shows the symbol. The surprised guy asks if this is what she saw in the office. She asks how he knew. Jane explains that as far as he knows, it is the symbol of the Council of Dawnlight, expressed in different lines. He says that the official announcement and the Squad of Dawn had a similar symbol, and that is all he knows. The main character thought that Beelzebub, the Phantom Thief, the Dawn Squad director, Spisa, and the Council of Dawn, they are all connected. Siren asks Master Jane what he knows about the Phantom Thief. He replies that he is actually investigating it with his team, and that all they know at the moment is that he is a member of the water faction. The guy says that he created a fog, and anyone who got into it fell asleep. The lady says that the dream is related to healing, and she wonders if he could belong to the wind faction. The young man replies that that is why he is a mystery. The main character thanks the guy for giving her a ride because she got there in comfort. Jane looked at the big house and said that this tower is Terusia, which belongs to the youngest son of the Aldebaran family, who made his fortune publishing books. This building was built with the proceeds from the sale of the famous novel 5,500 Shadows to the Demon Lord. The young lady asks him in surprise if he has read the book. The guy replies that, of course, because he wanted to meet the author someday. Hearing this, the main character thought that it would be better not to destroy his expectations regarding Irene Yu, and then thanks him again for the trip. When the girl entered the building, she wondered why it was so empty, and she thought that maybe it was because it was a weekday. She thought that the building shouldn't be so empty. The young lady entered the elevator, but as the doors began to close, someone reached out and opened them. At that moment, she remembered the words of the speaker about the prophecy. The stranger says that it is very rude not to observe proper etiquette after meeting the emperor. Then he says that he heard that she likes to chat a lot and asks if she is scared. The blonde guy says it doesn't matter because the emperor demands her presence and so she must follow him. He says she is just a victim and so she doesn't need to know his name. The man says that the Dawn Squad told him that her magic can break his seal. He says that they are going to Atara and she should be grateful that she is given the opportunity to break the emperor's seal. The stranger reveals that his name is Beelzebub Esther, and he is using her as a sacrifice to take revenge on this insignificant creature. Beelzebub. He wanted to move to Atara with magic, but suddenly his magic weakened, and he doesn't understand why. Seeing him, the girl says that it is wonderful because he was here with Dylan. He turns to this guy and says that he is arrested by order of the king. Beelzebub asks if this is the case, and then offers to try. The young lady screams and asks what he has in his hand. He replies that he drank a little. The girl does not understand how one can drink in the middle of the working day, since he is the commander. The blonde boy says that he just keeps doing his usual thing. Siren looks at him and asks if he's going to shoot that gun while drunk. He asks the little girl if she doesn't trust him. The main character screams and replies that, of course not. He offers her to believe at least a little, and then asks if she thinks that they take just anyone as a commander. The girl tells Sir Ray that he likes to get rewards without much effort. He says that he knew it because the seal of His Majesty could not be broken, and then says that there must be a hologram. Beelzebub says that it took him too long to realize this, and then claims that he is clearly not a warrior. The main character asks Ray how he is feeling, and also wonders if he can handle him. The gentleman replies that this is very bad, because he understands that if this man is really a hologram, then he will not be able to defeat him. Siren says that it's not that bad, because he saved the cutest student, and then suggests that they take a closer look at this guy, because this is a hologram of an angry warrior. Ray says that if he is so angry, it means that the inhabitants of Ether are very angry with him, and in any case, the hologram is not a real person, and therefore his bullets will not help, since only other holograms can harm a hologram. Beelzebub tells him to give him Siren. The captain of the Golden Knights replies that the law forbids him from using magic in the county of Night. Hearing this, the girl screams and says that he said that this man cannot wield magic. Beelzebub claims that she is nothing more than a sacrificial offering and he cannot leave like that. At this time, the main character thought that she still had so much to learn, and she created a hologram of a warrior. At this time, the main character does not understand why this hologram is here and how she can stop it. She understands that she knows for sure that this pink thing can neutralize the hologram. Siren screams and orders him to remove it. Beelzebub. Before evaporating, he said that was all for today. Seeing the closer hologram of Beelzebub, she realized that it was clearly a hologram of a warrior. The professor realized that this was a hologram of desire for justice, and the lady wrote 5,500 shadows, and she is the one who causes the greatest desire. Ray thought that this was driving him crazy, and he had to pull himself together, because this was the moment when he fell in love with the hologram, and he realized that His Majesty would never forgive him, and that meant that he would literally be killed because of him. The girl tells him to keep her at a distance and listen carefully, and then tells him that when she throws this moon crystal, he will cast a spell that summons a hologram, and then asks if he can do it. The other girl replies that, of course she can, and offers to tell her what to do. Ray screams and says that she has stopped this flirting, and then says that he has been meaning to ask for a long time if she plans to continue flirting with everyone. The main character says that this is a strange habit that has remained since her writing days, and when she sees people, she screams and asks where they came from. The man explains that these are all the people she flirted with in the past. The ghost of a virgin, who got a green card in the devilry, radiated a previously unseen hologram of lust. The young lady claims that she did not flirt with anyone, but was simply naturally sweet, beautiful, and sexy at the same time. Ray screams and reminds her that he already told her to stop this. The girl tells him to hurry up and cast the spell, and then throws a rock at the hologram. Saren says that from now on, this spell will summon her hologram and asks if she understood it. Ray screams and says that she is a fool, because none of this will disappear, and this is a call to the hologram. Hearing this, people are surprised and say that he just called Irene a fool, and they got very angry and thought that they should grab him because they think that this should not go unnoticed. The captain screams and tells them to stop, then explains that another private must appear to suppress their hologram. He takes the stone and through it informs His Majesty that people are trying to kidnap Irene. At this time, the king appeared and turned to Ray and said that his reports were becoming. But when he saw this, he realized that he had not lied. The captain turns to His Majesty and reports that Irene was lustful. The king says that his hologram is stronger than him, and he doesn't think he can suppress it. The main character turns to His Majesty and asks if he can stop teasing and help her. He agrees, and then asks her to be quiet, and asks if she knows how to control her hologram. Saren explains that she doesn't know how to leave it. He asks if she knows how to summon him. The girl explains that Sir Ray helped her create the spell, and then, surprised, asks the king why her hologram doesn't work on him. Claude says that he is sorry to disappoint her, because he is an effective ghost, but the dark factions do not bite on the hologram. The young heroine asks if it means that he doesn't get drunk and holograms don't work on him, and then she says that he is the only one she wants to use her lust hologram on. Hearing this, the king asks if she wants to seduce him, and then she says that she does this every minute already, and he wonders if she wants to seduce him even more. Saren asks if he is going to fight them. He explains that he cannot harm innocent civilians who are unarmed, and his only option is to use his hologram. The main character asks in surprise if this is his hologram, and then says that she attracts attention to herself, and all the hatred and jealousy is directed at the hologram. Claude says that it seems his hologram is still stronger than hers. He says that Irene should cast the spell again to balance them. Lady explains that they are simply under her spell, and so suggests that he should not be afraid and do his spell. The girl casts a spell about how he needs her. The young gentleman turns to the girl and says that she will have to cast the spell again to balance them. The young gentleman says that Beelzebub's hologram was at the elevator, and his magic was neutralized as soon as he crossed the border, and he wonders how this man managed to use it. Ray assumes that he used Willia's gemstone since it can be used anywhere in the demon world without prior notice. He then reveals that there are only a few of these gemstones in existence. The captain says what they know for sure is that he has an accomplice, someone who can hide all the people in that tower in a short period of time. Dylan entered the hallway and asked in surprise what happened there, and also wondered where Saren was. Ray said that she was his precious adopted daughter, fast asleep after summoning endless holograms. Saren saw Dylan, and he looked at her and said that everything was fine, and suggested that she continue sleeping. Claude goes to the guy and says that his friend will tell him all the details Dylan saw the king, and says that it is a great honor for him to appear before him. The young gentleman says that it is time for them to leave, and then takes the girl in his arms. But suddenly, the professor gives her a box, and says that it is the gift he promised to give her. When the girl slept a little and woke up, she thought that it was a long dream, and then she put her hand in her pocket and saw that there was an invitation to the autograph of Chef Gonzalez. She realizes that Delon put it right inside, and it's tomorrow night, and she thinks about the fact that she has to register first to get in there. The demon world is divided into the continent of darkness, the continent of light, and the twilight zone. The Demon King's palace is on the continent of darkness. But when moving from the continent of light to the continent of darkness or vice versa, you must request permission a day before the trip. The main character understands that this is the only opportunity for magicians to use magic abroad, but she believes that Beelzebub has apparently found a loophole. Siren thought about how there was a lot of paperwork in the district office the next morning. All the documents were submitted yesterday, and she realized that it was time for her to go to Kalipo. And about skipping classes, she thought about how it could be called her daily vice. The maid asks the mistress if she's heading to the academy. Then she tells her that the phantom thief has moved from the continent of light to the continent of darkness, and so she asks the lady to be careful on her way back. At this time, the young lady thought that she felt bad for Dylan for getting her those tickets, and she thought that she would have to wait until the second day with Kalipo, because she didn't want to be kidnapped and add to the Demon King's problems. Siren wondered why it took so long to get compensation, since it took her a whole day. On the way back, when the girl was returning home, it seemed to her that she heard something, and when she looked back, it was already too late, and she was grabbed by unfamiliar men. The main character screams and tells them to let her go. The stranger says that they quickly used the crystal that the boss gave him. The young lady realized that he was creating a fog, and everyone who got into it fell asleep. And then she passed out. The man turns to the boss and says that they brought the owner of Lust here, as he asked. At this time, the girl became interested in where she was, and she saw the guy and thought that this was the boss, Beelzebub. The gentleman says that it means she is that very Lust, and then he says that Beelzebub said that she was pretty, and he decided that she would be a blonde. The man turns to the girl and calls her Arya, and then tells her that he missed her with his love. The mercenaries ask the boss what they should do now. He says not to ask him, because he just wanted to see what she looked like, and wonders what Beelzebub said. They answer that he told them to transfer her to the seal in the castle. The man says that you can't give up after failing last time, and thinks that this guy doesn't know when to stop. Then he says that there are a few cracks, but the tightness of the stern remains high. The stranger says he is sure that this is so, and then says that Arya is only interested in men who are suitable for the role of emperor, and he believes that in any case, the group Daylight will no longer participate in this. The mercenary turns to the master and says that he thought that Beelzebub was also the leader of the Daylight group. The gentleman heard this and asked in surprise what he was talking about, and then said that he had not filled out the form or followed him on Dextagram, and had not even paid for a subscription. The man claims that he doesn't care who he is, the younger brother of Arya or a former candidate for emperor. After all, the official channel needs more subscribers, and this is a priority. Hearing this, the main character thought that the boss of the Daylight group is worried about subscribers on social networks, and she decides that she needs to look in and know who they are dealing with. The man tells them to hurry up and get rid of her. Then he says that he can't let her recognize him as the seal of Urareth, the Warrett family barons of the Wind faction in the southeast of the Dark Continent. The family grew rich through trade and casinos. Boss says he's out of amnesia crystals. He thinks if she finds out they're researching divergence, it'll be a big problem. Itar's family is also from the Wind faction, and she heard that during the Baron's time, families only married with members of the same faction. The main character realized that this loser was the queen's fiancé. The man touches the stone and says that he is going to watch his shows. At this time, the mercenaries do not understand how they will transfer her to Atera's castle. One of them suggests waking her up first, and then transferring her, since they assume that suddenly someone will come to save her. The mercenaries saw that the captive had woken up, and one of them told his comrade to take out the crystal so that she could fall asleep. Siren casts a spell about how he needs her, and then says that since they all want her, she has no choice but to kiss the strongest of them. Hearing this, the guys started fighting among themselves, and the main character took advantage of the moment and ran away. The man asks the girl where she is going, and at that moment, she realized that there were people on the street who were not affected by her hologram. The mercenary says that this lady should just be alive from the ankles up, and then they grab the girl. Siren screams and calls out Claude's name. Suddenly, a gentleman appears in front of her and asks if she's okay. The main character says that she is not okay, because they tried to harm her. She asks him to use his magic and deal with them. The king says he can't. Then he explains that he found out that the student he recommended skipped class to visit the continent of light, and that's why he came straight here and didn't have time to register, and that's why there's no magic today. Hearing this, the main character asks if this means that they are doomed, and she does not understand why this rule applies to the king as well. Claude says that if that were the case, he wouldn't be here, and smiles. And then he quickly dealt with the mercenaries. The surprised girl asks if they will just leave them here. The gentleman says that they will see if the commissioners are coping with the work, and then asks the lady if she is injured. The king gives the girl his cloak and says that he does not want her to catch a cold, because he would rather get wet and look at her face. Claude suggests getting away from the rain and finding shelter in Valia's mansion. The main character asks if they will return to the palace. He reminds that he said that he cannot use magic, and that means there will be no teleportation. Siren heard the ringing and then picked up the phone and was asked if Miss Yu was okay, and also wondered how they got into the mansion. The girl explains that His Majesty broke her window. The woman says that everything is fine, and she is sure that it was an emergency and nothing serious, because she understands that they have no other choice but to stay the night because of all the places they could enter this mansion. The queen says that this place is also called the Castle of Fertility, and explains that there is everything that newlyweds need there, so she suggests that they do not be shy and use whatever they want there. Claude tells the girl that she first needs to undress and take off these wet clothes, and then take a warm bath, and that's all he wants to say. At this time, the main character thought that this guy was soaking wet, and she didn't understand why he was still so damn hot. Siren asks if he could take her to the shower, and then explains that her feet are swollen from her wet shoes. Hearing this, Claude says that she puzzled him and asks if she wants him to join her. The girl replies that her king hit the nail on the head. A few minutes later, the girl was in the shower. She undressed and asked why he didn't come in because he wanted to come in. She wondered why he was waiting there. The young gentleman was already tired of waiting, and then he asked why it was taking so long. Siren asks what perfume she should use. She says that if she were a man, she would choose this one. The surprised guy asks why she asks him about this. He says that he needs to take a shower, and therefore suggests that she leave. Siren lay down on the bed, and when she heard footsteps, she thought that she needed to pretend that she was sleeping. Claude approaches the girl and kisses her. She says that he used the perfume she mentioned earlier, and then claims that he smells very nice. And the king asks if she is better. The lady replies that she is not quite okay, because she has been through a lot. Siren says that today wasn't much fun. After all, she missed Gonzalez's autograph because some crazy agents kidnapped her. The young gentleman asks why she is crying, and then says that he loves her. Hearing this, the girl asks why, so suddenly, and even without warning, she wonders if he really meant it. Claude asks if she didn't notice how he came running here to the Empire of Light when he found out she was missing. He tells her that his productivity has dropped by half because he's been thinking about her all day. The main character says that the Demon King is a workaholic. The king says that she smiles all the time and gets excited easily. She also flirts with someone else when he's not looking and runs away when he gets close. Then he says that everything about her attracts his attention. The young gentleman reports that when he worries about the schedule all day, all she does is look at her watch and pretend that she doesn't care. Hearing this, the surprised girl asks what happened and wonders if the cat bit his tongue. He explains that it has a mesmerizing effect on people. The main character is interested in Hu and asks if he is jealous of her now. The young lady calls out the name Semyon and offers him to hug her. He asks the girl if they will do nothing today. She answers that, of course nothing, and then they kiss. The king says he feels like he's going crazy and then kisses her tenderly. He says he wants every part and all of her. Claude claims that he loves her. Hearing this, the main character says that she wants to hear this all night. Siren tells the guy that she loves him too, and then they start kissing again. The main character asks the gentleman how long he will make her wait. He replies that he is not sure who exactly is waiting. The young lady tells him to do it quickly because he wants him. She says it's so annoying and he really is a demon. The girl explains that he doesn't irritate her. He's just very sexy. Then she tells him to wait because it hurts. Siren says that if he tells her that he loves her, she will be able to endure the pain. Claude says that he loves her, and the girl insists that he continue to say this all the time. After passionate kisses, the young gentleman asks the girl if she would like to join him in the shower. And after a few minutes, he touches the girl again and hugs her. The young lady says that he knows that she feels weak when he acts so tenderly. The guy asks her if she wants him to stop. And at that moment, the girl just smiles and says that you're welcome. The next morning, when Saren woke up, she remembered what happened during the night, and she realized that they did this for the first time in her 3 lives. The main character thought about how in movies, couples take things calmly and go out for a romantic breakfast or something like that. Sirene is confused whether to take a shower or wait until he wakes up. However, she thinks that she should take a shower first. Suddenly, the guy grabs the girl by the hand and asks where she is going. The lady replies that she wants to take a shower. He asks if she is going to sleep yet. Claude hugs the girl and she smiles and says that he knows she didn't mean it because she still feels like a virgin. The king asks if she is still in pain. The lady replies that she is fine and thinks that it is not that bad. The girl sees the package and says that maybe there is something in there that will ease her pain. She says that Willia sent it yesterday and said that it would be the things she needed. Siren looked into the bag and saw that it was empty and realized that the queen wanted to say that she should be naked.